Speaking out of Akron, Ohio, representing Team Popping the Boys, the headline god, Jeremy Lambert, and his co-host, speaking out of Atlanta, Georgia, representing more than one royal family, the king of indie viewing, Stephen Jensen. And this is the Spotlight on Fightful.
Welcome everyone to the Spotlight, and shout out to Big Dick MLJ as always for the intro. I'm Jeremy Lambert. That is Stephen Jensen. We got a lot to talk about, but first, it is Thursday. It is May 18th. Jensen, how you doing, buddy?
I'm doing good. Happy birthday, SP3, if you happen to be watching this. I saw that this morning you froze for a second. Okay, we're good.
Okay.
But yeah, happy birthday to SP3. I don't know if he's in the chat right now. For those of you who are fans of Degrassi Dudes, my podcast with SP3 on Overbooked, we're recording an episode tomorrow, and it'll drop sometime soon, whenever Jeremy's got a good time slot for it to drop. But we're gonna record one of those tomorrow for y'all, so that's gonna be coming back soon. Looking forward to talking with my brother SP3 a little bit more, and yeah, happy birthday to SP3. I wanted to get that right at the top of the show. Didn't want to forget that. So
that will drop. We'll say Saturday morning. That's what I think. That'll drop on Fightful Overbooked. Yeah, Saturday morning probably for that, and then the interview with kevxku, which will air. Everyone will see it first here at 11 o'clock a.m. Eastern here on this show. That'll be up on Fightful Overbooked probably Saturday afternoon, evening. So always content for Fightful Overbooked. If you enjoy the interviews that we do on this show, those are always cut up and put on Fightful Overbooked. If you enjoy the interviews that we do on In the Weeds, those are always cut up and put up there as well. So a lot of stuff over on Fightful Overbooked. If everybody wants to go over there, throw us a follow, throw us some thumbs up, subscribe to the channel. That'd be much appreciated. Jensen, we got a lot to talk about today. I mean, I feel like we should just get into it. And I mean, I think there's only one place to start when it comes to all of this.
I'm old and I'm fucking tired, and I work with fucking children. I'm tired of wrestling these kids that think they know everything.
Had to break out the CM Punk drop for the AEW stuff today, because CM Punk in the news even when he's not in the news. Yesterday, Wednesday, May 17th, AEW announced Collision is coming on June 17th. It'll premiere on TNT on June 17th, 8 p.m. Eastern. It's going to be live most weeks. They did announce some Thursday tapings, but it'll be Saturdays, 8 p.m. on TNT. And many thought this would be the prelude to the CM Punk return. There was a press release that went out that didn't go out, I guess, technically, that had CM Punk in the headline. And then the one that actually went out did not have CM Punk in the headline. Thunder Rosa, Miro, Powerhouse Hobbs, Andrade were all in that. Samoa Joe were all in the headline. CM Punk was not there. Apparently, there was one that's supposed to go out that had Punk listed. There was apparently promotional material that had Punk on the graphic that never went out. I thought that, why would they announce CM Punk as a press release thing? Why wouldn't they? If he's coming back, why wouldn't that be something you announce on the show? Well, we get to the show, and by the time we get to the show, we learned that there may have been some falling out here with Punk and AEW, potentially over Ace Steel, who Punk thought might be returning, but not returning to the arena, instead just kind of returning and working from home, which didn't seem to sit well with Punk, reportedly. And then he went on Instagram stories and he called out Brian Alvarez. He called out just gossip reporting. He kind of made fun, I think, of people getting positions that they maybe did not earn, and giving Larry a position that he did not earn. And then Larry got fired for napping. Then he talked about parasocial relationships that fans have with wrestlers and saying, you don't know me. You don't know any of these people. Go touch grass. And then he did a skit with Lars Fredrickson of Rancid, where they kind of did a bit on Danhausen. And then at the end, they shook hands. And then Lars is like, fuck you, Phil. all right, I don't think I'm supposed to curse anymore. That's a new mandate. He's like, F you, Phil. And then he said, you're a cancer. So CM Punk doing a lot without actually doing anything. Where you at on this, Jensen? Noted CM Punk fan, Stephen Jensen.
Yeah.
What are your thoughts?
So are we supposed to like cut down like the language? I was ever given that that memo, but I can't.
I think I was handed that memo internally, and this has not reached the rest of the Fightful staff just yet. So I may be breaking this news to you right now.
Okay.
I was quoting an Instagram story from Lars and Phil in case, I get in trouble for this. Go ahead and find me. That's whatever. But yeah, where are you at on CM Punk?
I'm glad you brought that up before I went off on this. So that's all right. So
I shouldn't have said anything because we need the Jensen addressing his enemies unfiltered.
No.
Here. So, you have not been issued the mandate, Jensen. Say what you need to say.
No, that's cool. I can play within the rules here. So like, this is a good thing to kind of kick off. This is a great comment. I'm actually logged in right now. Sorry, I'll pull that back up. Julian Francisco in the chat says, go touch grass, in quotes. Says a man so online, he's bringing up arguments from 2007. So, yeah, I mean, I'm sure most of you already kind of know how I feel about old Phil. So this dude, we talked about this like week after week, right? Like this is nothing new. This is just another like just kind of like example of what I keep talking about, where we have a guy who's in his mid 40s, who it's like every time he gets, it's like AEW keeps bending over backwards over and over and over again to just like appease this guy, to get him back. Because regardless of how I feel and how a lot of people feel, he still has his ride or die fans. He has a lot of ride or die fans. Like, I mean, he really, and I get it. And I'm not even sitting here and saying like you shouldn't be a CM Punk fan. Like you can be a fan of whoever you want to be. I get it. All right. It's professional wrestling. It's very subjective, whatever. Like you can like who you like. If you're the biggest CM Punk fan in the world and all you want to see is him come back to AEW, like I get it. Okay. But like, it's very strange to watch this guy. He's like once again he's in his mid 40s, and every time it gets to the point where it's like, okay, cool, like we figured it out enough to where we can bring you back. Like we're starting a whole other show. We're gonna go to Chicago. We're gonna do this or that. We're gonna bring back all these other people too. That seem like the funniest thing about that press conference to me on it, or the press release to me, honestly, was the names they used in it. Like they used all the names that I talked about last week. That I was like, wait, it's like Thunder Rosa, Miro, like Andrade, like these people who are like disgruntled with the company or had like issues backstage or whatever. It's like they're all the like that's a collision, and it was assumed CM Punk was going to be a part of that. But every time it looks like things are figured out and he's like right there ready to come back, he goes on the internet and does something to burn all these bridges again. It's just very weird. Like it once again, it'd be different if this guy was like maybe in like his 20s or something, like when being a rebellious kind of like F you to authority type dude might have been kind of cool or like edgy. This is just lame. Like, I'm sorry. Like to be him and talking about going out there and touching grass, like, bro, I'm doing way more than touching grass. All right. Like y'all use your imagination. Like, and maybe CM Punk should try that as well. If I'm being completely honest, this dude needs to take like a deep introspective look at himself and understand how he comes across to everybody else. And also understand that he isn't the same guy he was in 2011, where he's not the same kind of draw he was in 2011. He's not the same kind of in-ring worker he was in 2011. Plus, he's injury prone. Plus, most of the locker room doesn't like him. Plus, like half the fan base doesn't like him. So he's not really in this position to like be calling these shots or to just keep sticking his middle finger to authority and saying like, all right, well, yeah, I'm getting everything I wanted. Well, still F you. Still F this guy. F that guy. I don't like this. I don't like that. All right, dude. Well, you can't go back to WWE. You can't go back to UFC. Like, good luck. And by the way, I need to make this super clear to all the people who don't understand, because this is the advantage of being in both worlds. I love mixed martial arts and professional wrestling, so luckily I'm very aware of both of what's going on in both worlds. It wasn't like CM Punk left the WWE and went on to have some like people. I think people wrongfully view CM Punk's exit from the WWE like he was a giant win for him. Like, he got out of WWE and he gave the big middle finger to authority again, and he talked about WWE and everything about WWE and everything he didn't like about it and all this stuff, that all the ways he was wronged, even though he was the world champion for 434 days straight. He is so wronged by this company, and he went out publicly and talked about it and this and that. And then for 7 years or whatever it was, the dude was unsuccessful in pretty much everything he did. The UFC career was pathetic. He lost to an okay fighter and the second worst fighter in history. Guess who the first worst is? The comics and the movies and all this other stuff didn't really take off. And eventually he came back to professional wrestling, and it worked out for as long as it worked out. But now he's just the same old CM Punk being the same old CM Punk again. I talked about this over and over and over again. Feel free to bring him back, but just beware that this is going to happen again. And it is. It's literally happening before he even returns. So, yeah, good luck. Have fun with this guy. I mean, is it worth it? I don't know.
Chi-Town Spurs says they've tried to give him everything. Like, at what point is enough?
Right, especially even before this whole break. Like, they gave him everything. They put the world title on him multiple times. They pushed him over everyone. This guy didn't join the company until multiple years in because he didn't believe in it enough to join it at the beginning. And they still bent over backwards and still pushed him over everyone and still gave him the world title multiple times. He went from crying in tears of joy about the Ring of Honor library being in Tony Khan's hands to calling him and everyone else that he works with morons like a couple months later. I mean, it's like, why even bother with this dude? He is not important enough anymore to deal with all this bullshit is my honest opinion. He's just not important enough to deal with all this bullshit. Like, if this was 2011 CM Punk and he was making these kind of demands, I could maybe understand. I would definitely understand it. But also, if you're Tony Khan, you got to understand how this looks as a wrestling fan also. I'm just going to keep it real. Like, if you're like, you can't act like this with Vince McMahon. You can't act like this with, I'm assuming, with Triple H. It's a weird ass look. It's a weird look to be the dude sitting there next to CM Punk at these press conferences, or the main press conference we're talking about, the Brawl Out press conference. He's sitting there literally next to Tony Khan and basically calling him a moron to his face. And like, dude, imagine if that happened, if Vince would have stood up and grabbed the dude by the throat in front of everybody. You know what I mean? Like, it's just one of those things, man. Like, it's one of those things where every time I get to the point where I'm like, you know what, screw it. Like, just bring him back. It's going to be good pro wrestling. The storylines are going to be good. Just do it. Like, even though I might have some personal issues with the dude, I think it's going to be really good television. And then it always gets back to this point where I'm like, just don't bring him back. Like, it just isn't worth it. Especially if your whole plan was to go to Chicago and build this whole show around him, and now it's like he's not even a part of it. Screw this. AEW doesn't need this. This is when AEW started. This is where I'm going to get really deep. When AEW started, this is the freaking opposite of what AEW is meant to be. AEW, when AEW was founded, it was an alternative product. It was, and this is a big reason, honestly, I think Cody Rhodes left. And it isn't because of CM Punk, but because of these reasons. When AEW started, it was an alternative. They were going out and they were scouting indie talent. They wanted to build new talent. They wanted something totally different than what the WWE was doing. Now what they're doing, I get it. Because of the pandemic, people became available that they didn't expect to become available. They got a lot of big stars. I get all that. But what the company is now is just different than the original vision. It just is. And I don't think the original AEW would have ever put up with this BS that they're dealing with CM Punk constantly. So that's how I feel about it, Jeremy. What about you?
Oh, man. Yeah, the screen was not frozen, by the way. That is just the Stephen Jensen addressing his enemies graphic. I'm going to be honest. Chi-Town Spurs, can we not use Vince as a benchmark for talent management?
I get what you were saying. Vince as a benchmark, but as a boss. Dude, and this is something I think the chat really needs to understand. And I think most of y'all do, but some may not. And Jeremy, I apologize. I know you want to talk. I'd like
you could. But I got 5 other shows that I do.
Right. I do my one a week. I do the Weekender and this, and that's like But what people need to understand is like in any job, not just this. I can't. If I have a shoot job, right, that I clock into, an hour and 10 minutes from now. Even if I was the most disgruntled employee ever, I don't love everything about my job. There's plenty of times where I vent about stuff, but I would never outright go to another employee or go to my boss or my boss's boss and just start outright trash talking them and other people I work with. Because guess what? You can get fired for that, no matter what the job is. You know what I mean? So it's like you're riding this line of thinking you're untouchable, but now it's at a point where it's like you kind of are touchable. Like if the decision is the elite and like half the AEW locker room or one CM Punk, and if the breaking point or the straw that breaks the camel's back is Ace Steel, is CM Punk's big like I'm not coming back because you won't let my friend come back who threw a chair or allegedly threw a chair at somebody in a grown men fighting backstage and he threw a chair. Like, I mean, what's there to even talk about? Like, it seems so only in professional wrestling would this even be a conversation. Anywhere else, it'd just be like, dude, you're done. Like, your friend's done. You're valuable. He's not. Okay. He's done. We're willing to bring you back. Okay. You're only coming back if he comes back. Then you're done too, dude. You're just not worth it anymore. Sorry.
If you want to vent and rant about your coworkers, do it to your wife like a normal person, not in a public press conference.
Yeah, like exactly. There's like I said, I don't love everything about my own job, but like I'm smart enough to not go to my boss and just start talking shit. Like, you know what I mean? Doesn't matter who I am.
Here's my thoughts on it. I respect that CM Punk is pulling this power play at this point. It is so hilarious to me. I don't get caught up in who's on this side, who's on that side. I'll give an honest take. I think people who've watched this show seen me long enough, seen me do enough shows, know I try to give an honest take of how everybody is trying to feel at this point. This is so past the point of stupidity when it comes to CM Punk that I got no choice but to respect this power play of, but you said Ace was coming back. Like, no. You're not just going to sit him at home. You built this entire second show around me. You're going to go to the United Center, which they didn't announce, by the way. They didn't announce that it was going to be the United Center, which was the big rumor. They're going to announce that next week, whatever the venue is. They announced the other 5 dates of where the venue is. They didn't announce the premiere date, which, again, we're reportedly going to be the United Center. Now, because they didn't announce it, hold on. What's happening? So you've built this whole show around me. You're going to go to the United Center. Yeah. Bring Ace back. No, don't sit him at home. He needs to be there with me. Do whatever you can. See how valuable you are. Push the boundaries of this. Just see how valuable you are. Kate says, I'm very confused about it being Jericho's idea to bring back ACL. Jericho is the biggest chaos agent of them all in this. And I feel like Jericho is just seeing what he can do as well of like, yeah, sure, bring Ace back. Let's see what we can get away with here. Well, just going complete chaos. And I think part of this is what happens when you just give wrestlers power and it is an inmates running the asylum type of thing. And you allow certain things like CM Punk sitting up there bashing everybody. And, these wrestlers are going to be like, okay, we respect you and everything. We appreciate what you've done. But like, you've given us some about how much can we get away with at this point? And they're just pushing it.
Well, you're right. And that's where I'm saying, like, that's why I use like the Vince example. Listen, I don't love Vince McMahon, everything about Vince, obviously, but I understand why he's as respected as he is as everybody's just boss. Because you would never see this. Like there are little things here and there throughout history, right? He's had negotiating stuff with like Ultimate Warrior and Hogan and CM Punk himself. Once again, like 10 years ago when the value was much different. But I could see Jericho being an agent of chaos here because guess what? Chris Jericho is a genius. He's trying to make money. He probably just wants CM Punk back wherever he can get him back because he knows that's the feud. Like he gets the feud with the guy. He gets to make that money if CM Punk comes back. Chris Jericho's just being smart about it. But you're 100% right about the pushing it and pushing it and pushing it and seeing how much you can get away with. But at a certain point, when you're Tony Khan, when do you just put your foot down finally and say, you don't get any of it now? Like I was going to, I bent over backwards this much and now I'm done. Like we just don't want to deal with you anymore.
Here's my conspiracy theory that I had when it came out of the headline edit and Warner Brothers was like, CM Punk is not associated with this show. This is my conspiracy theory then. And then it took a big hit when CM Punk's doing Instagram stories. My conspiracy theory was they played the Ace Steel thing of like, oh yeah, Ace is going. Yeah, okay, this is work. Ace is going to come back. And that is how they were going to use Tony Khan putting his foot down. Like, no, this is where Ace Steel is not coming back. And then Tony Khan looks like he has the power because this is what he put his foot down on. And Punk still comes back and everybody plays along. That was my conspiracy theory of how Tony Khan gains a little bit of the authority back in that. But then Punk went on Instagram. I'm
going to say that only works if Punk actually returns though after that. Like,
right, exactly. Like conspiracy theory doesn't sound as good now with CM Punk and his Instagram stories. And look, bless this man that he can't stay off Instagram. He can't do it. It's like, this is a monumental day for AEW. We got a new show coming out. This is great. More AEW programming, maybe a new TV deal. Who knows? And Punk is like, you know what? Brian Alvarez, you piece of, I can't curse anymore. You piece of crap. Let me bring up these old grudges here. It's great. It's I'm here for it. Just feed it all into me, because people in the chat are like, we don't know these guys. Like CM Punk said it himself. Like, you don't know us. You're picking sides. I don't understand it and everything. But he also said of like, it is sports teams at this point. And like, some people are picking the elite, who I guess are the Detroit Red Wings, I guess the Blackhawks rivalry. And some people are picking the CM Punk, the Chicago Blackhawks. That's who they're going for. Doesn't matter who's right or wrong in the situation. It doesn't matter if there was a dirty hit on one side. You're going for the team you root for. And that is what is happening here. You don't have to know the players. You don't have to know the players personally. What you're rooting for is the game that you see. And so the game that we see with these is the game that's playing out on all the reports, the game that's playing out in all the interviews. And that's what fans are basing all of this off of. And I think Punk understands that, by the way, but then he's also being like, go touch grass. While, by the way, he feeds into it of, the Larry stuff of like, oh, he's been fired for napping. But we don't know what to do with him because his contract is so big. Oh, Lars is calling Phil a cancer. He's feeding into it the same way, by the way, the elite feeds into it with their bits on BTE and everything. Both sides are feeding into it and feeding the fans, feeding their sides of fans what they want. And the fans are going to choose sides. And that's just the reality of the situation.
It's true. That is the reality of it. I wish it wasn't the reality, because at the end of the day, like, I don't want to be choosing sides. I want to choose sides like on screen, like as a wrestling fan. But at the end of the day, I want AEW to be successful. And I feel like this is just a giant black eye kind of on AEW, this whole thing. If Punk comes back and they can make a lot of money and run good stories, which is what I'm expecting them to still probably be able to figure out and do, great. But like, I don't know. I'm just over the whole thing. Like, I guess until he returns, I'm just kind of not, who knows? I don't know. It just is what it is at this point. Him going out and telling people to touch grass, I just think is kind of funny.
It's hilarious.
I mean, him of all people, but like, yeah, I mean, there's much more I can go into, but y'all got a pretty good idea of how I feel about things.
Okay. Last question before we do move on. By the way, I don't think any of this is a work. I mentioned a conspiracy theory. I don't think it's a dumb work if it's a work, and it's been a dumb work if it's been a work since all out. And this is why I don't think any of it's a work. Last question. Yes or no, do you think CM Punk returns?
Yes. I think Tony Khan is still in a position of being a big, and I mean this in the honestly the most loving way. I think he's still a big enough wrestling mark and a big enough CM Punk mark that he's going to bring him back.
He is, like we've talked about it before.
Sure.
He wanted Punk at the start. Like Punk was going to be a guy he wanted to build around. He loves CM Punk, and I think that's why it's gotten this far. If it was anybody but CM Punk, it probably doesn't get this far.
I agree. But keep in mind, I mean, years back, the Young Bucks used to do interviews talking about how like good of friends they were with CM Punk and stuff. You know what I mean? Like things have clearly changed. I feel like Tony Khan might still be a big CM Punk fan, but now that he's dealt with him personally and professionally, who knows? I mean, this can't be a fun process to deal with if you're Tony Khan. But once again, it's also on Tony Khan as the boss to like, if you're going to let him treat you like that, it is what it is.
Good stuff was happening on screen last night.
Great show.
AEW.
Fantastic show.
I thought it was
which is part of my problem, right? They're putting on banger shows with or without CM Punk. I get that Punk brings in more eyes. I get he has his fan base. There's people in the chat that are like, I know they see this and they're like, dude, screw this guy. Like he's a CM Punk hater, blah, blah, blah. Listen, I am biased. I am 100%. The reason that that's okay is because I'm not a wrestling journalist. I interview a bunch of wrestlers and stuff. That's it, right? I'm fortunate that I have this platform, and me and Jeremy are buddies, and we both like wrestling, and I'm able to talk about it. But I'm 1,000,000% allowed to be biased about this because it's me as a fan, just speaking as a fan. But I'm also I'm open-minded enough and reasonable enough to like I see both sides of it. Like I totally get the CM Punk side, I totally get the CM Punk fan side, and I get all this. I'm just saying I personally don't like it. But like if you're gonna ride or die with this guy, I'm not gonna like, it is what it is. Like you can be the biggest CM Punk fan in the world. I'm fine with it. But like just understand where we're coming from as kind of the other side of this. Not even just like CM Punk haters or whatever, more just like AEW day one fans that don't like seeing this happen to the company.
What is happening in the company is the other side of things, the elite side of things. They're in a fantastic feud with the Blackpool Combat Club, and it went up to another level last night as Hangman Page made his return, got back, reunited with the Young Bucks and Kenny Omega to set up Anarchy in the Arena 2 at Double or Nothing against the Blackpool Combat Club. And then Hangman Page got a promo saying they are the heart and the spirit of AEW. They are the elite, and they're going to kick the ass of the Blackpool Combat Club. What'd you think of this entire story, Hangman Page's return, and then Anarchy in the Arena coming up at Double or Nothing?
Well, this is pretty much what we were expecting as far as like a 5-on-5, except we had Takeshita in there as a 5-on-5, but we were getting a 4-on-4 is what it looks like. Because like no Ibushi, at least as of like now, we don't know what's happening. I'd imagine Takeshita is going to play a part in this finish of this match, though, at Anarchy in the Arena. But I'm getting people tweeting at me saying that they agree with me about this Punk stuff. Thank y'all. But yeah, I love the ending of Dynamite. That was awesome. So like, when Kenny came out and he gets beat up and everything, and it's like, I thought that I didn't think the end of the show was just going to be Don Callis talking, but I kind of felt like the show was wrapping up. I was like, damn, I kind of wanted more out of like, I was like, we already knew like where Callis kind of was at. Like I wanted more kind of meat on the bone to end the show. And then Kenny comes out and it's like him versus Blackpool. And it's like, oh, the Young Bucks are back out. They're hurt, but like they're back out here to help. And right when the Young Bucks came out and the commentary mentions it on commentary, they're like 3-on-4, what are the Elite going to do? 3-on-4 and the Bucks are hurt and Kenny's hurt. And then out comes Hangman, place goes insane and they're all hurt. They're all dealing with like their own injuries. Hangman's got an eye patch on, which is a thing that I don't want to say is overdone in AEW. But it's something that I noticed. Like, there's been quite a few wrestlers that they've rocked the eye patch, which I'm not saying anything like wrong with it. It's just noticeable that like that's kind of like one of their go-to things. But then again, you can kind of tie it into Mox maybe somehow in this story because he had the eye patch like around the beginning of AEW and stuff. But that's small things. But anyway, when Kenny hands Hangman the broom, I mean, then it's like, okay, it's on. Like the Elite is back. There's no more getting around this. There's no more teasing it. Like they're back. And then it was great seeing them come out. They clean house. Hangman calls himself the Elite and on the microphone, and the place goes nuts. He says the heart, soul, and spirit of AEW, which is the truth. And I thought that was badass. It was really badass, and it sets up what we're, we didn't know what type of match it was going to be, but like it would make sense that this is it. Anarchy in the Arena 4-on-4.
Yeah, Anarchy in the Arena makes a lot of sense for this feud. We thought maybe Blood and Guts, but if it was Blood and Guts, it'd be on a Dynamite show because they weren't setting that up for Double or Nothing. You kind of knew that based on just the arena layout and the ticket sales on that one. And we thought maybe they would come up with a new match type, and that didn't happen. It is going to be Anarchy in the Arena, which is fine. The first Anarchy in the Arena last year was fantastic. I expect no different from this one. Hangman Page, tremendous reaction. It was great to see him back. Love Hangman. Love the entire story with the Elite. I've really enjoyed this whole story with Elite in Blackpool Combat Club. And I think there's still a lot there. Like we talked about last week, I think there's still a big Takeshita factor in this. There's still Don Callis in this because it's not like Omega got his hands on him last night or anything. Callis barely got his explanation out. It was, largely like I didn't screw Kenny Omega. Like Omega, he was the one who turned on me a long time ago. This is building for a long time here. Like I gave Omega everything and would never appreciate it and things like that. So Callis didn't feel like he even cut into everything he could say. And of course, Omega didn't even get any type of response. So there's still a lot to play there. I don't think this is wrapping at Double or Nothing is my main point here. I do think maybe they do go Blood and Guts because this is what they did last year, right? They did Anarchy in the Arena with Jericho Appreciation Society in Blackpool. And then they went into Blood and Guts after that because Danielson couldn't work that match because he got hurt at Anarchy in the Arena. So maybe they kind of follow a similar beat here of doing Anarchy in the Arena first, Blood and Guts next. I hope they switch it up a little bit. I like Blood and Guts. I think maybe you can reserve that for the women with the Outcast and the Originals this year. I don't think you need to basically tell the same beat here of Anarchy in the Arena, Blood and Guts between these two sides. I'd like to see a little bit of a switch up on that. Otherwise, I'm very curious to see where this goes. The match is going to be great. Great moment last night with the Elite.
I agree. Do you think that Takeshita will screw over the Elite in Anarchy in the Arena? That's my guess.
That's a good guess. I don't know where it goes with Takeshita. I mean, I laid out a bunch of different scenarios last week, and they could play any of them, and any of them would truly make sense. Honestly, I feel like he's a better baby face right now. I like him more as a baby face, and so I'd kind of like him to see him more with the Elite, especially if you don't have a Bushi. If you got a Bushi, okay, fine. Then it makes sense to switch Takeshita over. But if you're not bringing in a Bushi as the big savior, Golden Lovers and everything, then I like Takeshita just much better as a baby because the crowd is very behind him and he's such a likable guy. I like him better as a baby face.
No, I agree with that. We haven't really seen him as a heel though, to be fair.
Yeah,
I think ultimately the money with him is as a baby face. But as you know, a lot of the time they'll turn someone heel for a while and then try to get the fans to get that organic turn, and then eventually they become way bigger as baby faces. But no, I know what you mean. I'm fine with either, by the way. To me, it's one of those things where if he's too heavily involved with Don Callis and the feud up to this point to just be a non-factor, I feel like. So
yeah, he's going to factor in somehow. Who knows how right now. And it might not happen until after Anarchy in the Arena, but Anarchy in the Arena is probably a good point of whose side is Takeshita on.
Sure. Yeah, no, I'm with you. I'm with you for sure. But like I said, last night was That was awesome. I love those. And Hangman has been responsible for a lot of those AEW moments. Like it's once you see that you hear that little tune like that down like when there's like this music starts, it's like there's been a lot of AEW moments that start with that tune and that music hitting and the fans just going nuts. So I mean, yeah, really good stuff. It's cool to see the Elite back together, and it's been long enough too that like this is like the timing feels right too. You know, we got the whole years and years worth of, you know, the Elite at the beginning of AEW, and then the feud within the Elite, and then, you know, Kenny versus Hangman and all this stuff, and where did the Bucks fall in all of this and all that, and Adam Cole at one point. And I mean, there's been so many twists and turns and so much along the way for the story since, I mean, obviously this all starts pre-AEW, but if we're talking just within AEW's timeline, and we're like 3.5 to 4 years in AEW now already. Something like that. Yeah, starting 2019. So yeah, I mean, it's been a couple years already since the Elite was together as this unit. So, you know, there's another member out there in another company holding it down, but yeah, I think that this is good stuff. This is good stuff. I wonder, there's this big, like, not conspiracy theory, but this big, do you think this is possible, real quick? And we can move on to other subjects after this, because this is totally hypothetical. Do you think there's any possibility, and by any, I mean, of course you can say there's like a 1% chance, but I guess out of like 100%, what do you think the possibility is that, and of course everything comes back to Cody Rhodes.
As always.
Okay. I'm under the impression with Cody, he's either going to win Money in the Bank and they're going to finally have him beat Roman at SummerSlam, or they're going to make him wait all the way until WrestleMania next year, which I think is probably more likely. I think we're going to get Roman versus Cody 2 at WrestleMania next year. By WrestleMania next year, is there any chance that Kenny and or the Young Bucks are in the WWE and they're helping Cody fend off the bloodline?
If CM Punk continues to go down this path and Tony Khan continues to kind of take that side, then yeah, I think there's a possibility. Do I think it's going to happen? No. But, you know, did we think Cody was going to leave when all of that came out? No, not really.
Not. I didn't believe it until he showed up on WrestleMania. Yeah. Like, straight up, until he appeared on the show. I was like, I don't believe this. I straight up don't believe the rumors.
Yeah. So I don't think it's likely. I do think it's possible, especially if Tony continues to kind of acquiesce to Punk's side. And there is true unresolved stuff between Punk and the Elite, which there seems to be. Don't know for certain, but there seems to be between. I could definitely see them being like, you know what? Like, why are we going this kind of what you said of like, this isn't what it used to be at this point. And this is not what we started. This is not what we wanted to cultivate and help grow. Maybe we should go over here and see if we can bring change over here. And those three are guys who like challenges. They like to challenge themselves. And maybe kind of like Cody, they see it as a challenge and they are willing to go over there.
Yeah, I'm with you on all of that. I think that's I think the only reason that they would leave would be if the company sided more and more like with Punk or people they weren't like too favorable with, and but also like they were being like less prioritized under those people too, like if that makes sense. But yeah, I mean, wouldn't that be wild timing? Like if they wait, I mean, because I had my like kind of my wheel spinning on that, because I was thinking like if they wait all the way until WrestleMania next year for Cody, and the whole story is like he was underprepared last year, and it was the numbers game that got him. It was Solo and the Usos and Heyman, and it was like if he just had 3 or 4 other dudes out there that had his back to keep them out of the match, then he wins the title. And what better 3 or 4 guys than them? You know what I mean? So it's like, so I'm just putting it out there. I don't have like, you know, if I were to put a percentage on it, I'd say like 20%. You know what I mean? That might even be high.
That high.
That might even be
high.
Because I feel like there is a chance. I think there's a legitimate chance they bring CM Punk back. He keeps burning bridges, and like they just don't want to be there anymore. I think it's like legitimately possible. I don't think that it's not. I also don't think it's just CM Punk. But when Cody left, once again, I think that's. We don't know all the reasons he left, or really any of them publicly. But I think that has to be a big part of it, man. Like the company it changed a lot from what the original vision was. And if you're gonna prioritize people that didn't even want to be here day one over the people that were. It's like, you're going to lose people sometimes. Anyways, that was just something I wanted to throw out there. But as far as like the rest of the elite reuniting, it was great to see. So, and Ace Shook said it too. I absolutely believe that Cody wants AEW to succeed. I absolutely believe that. I think all the wrestlers want both the companies to succeed, not just Cody and stuff. They all want success everywhere. But yeah, it'd be a really sad day if the elite was no longer a part of AEW. I mean, they're those four guys and Cody. That's what it was all about when this whole thing started.
Shadon Swear says, if that happens, I'll quit watching wrestling. There you go. Do you rename the company if they leave? Like the elite's not there.
You can't, but it's weird. Yeah.
Is it all APW? All Pepsi wrestling?
Oh no.
All Phil wrestling? Works on multiple levels here. Works on multiple levels.
Okay.
I need to finish the story. In the WWE, the story never finishes.
One story that's never finishing is the Bloodline story and Roman Reigns collecting more gold. He and Solo Sikoa will team up at Night of Champions to challenge Kevin Owens and Sami Zayn for the undisputed WWE Tag Team titles. Roman Reigns wants more gold. He wants to prove that the Usos suck and that they can't get the job done and that he and Solo will get the job done. Your thoughts on Roman Reigns trying to collect all the titles, Stephen Jensen?
So once again, I have to be very careful here without cursing because I know this. I found out this new rule on the spot during the show today. So this is just more proof they should have put Cody over at WrestleMania. Like this, they're in a spot now where they're not like Roman's. They have to have Roman and Solo go after the tag team titles. Like what? We should be living in a world right now where Cody's the world champ, just the only world champion without these other titles. Like there should be one world title. It should be him, and Owens and Zayn have the tag titles. And then we have all these new stories based off of that or whatever. What this seems to me, and this isn't even like the Cody bias coming out, to be honest. This is just like, as a wrestling fan, watching the story play out. They have booked themselves into such a corner with Roman Reigns that it's pathetic, honestly. Because what I'm seeing also, like I don't pay super close attention each week, like to the Monday night show. But when Cody's on, I try to tune in and I keep an eye on Twitter as far as like kind of the Discord of what people are thinking about most of the stuff going on the show. And correct me if I'm wrong, Jeremy, because I might be wrong and it might just be the people that I follow or whatever that I'm seeing this. I feel like the Bloodline story has lost significant momentum since WrestleMania. I feel like people are just like over, like now it's to the point where like this isn't even fun anymore with Roman. Like, what are we gonna? It's more of like desperation. Like now, like what are we gonna do? Type scenario. They had the Usos. It was weird because they had the Usos lose, but Roman win at WrestleMania. So it messed the whole story up. The only thing that I'll say about it's a double-edged sword, but like in this tag match, like personally, I wouldn't pin Roman because like he hasn't been pinned in so long. I think the first time he gets pinned or submitted should be him losing the titles. But the only thing that makes sense to me in this story is Roman takes the L in this tag team title match. Like he has to get pinned. And the reason I say that is because otherwise, what's this story? Because at some point, the Usos and Solo have to look at Roman and say, you lost. Like, quit coming at us. You just lost. Because that has to happen eventually. Otherwise, this is Right. Well, because that's the thing. Because otherwise, this goes from like the best WWE storyline in decades to the worst storyline in decades. If there's never a payoff for any of this, and the end game is just Roman Reigns is just the ultimate final boss champion that just never gets beat, and then he also goes on to win the tag team titles, which Jerry seems to be excited about. I mean, what's the thing? And maybe you just do that. Maybe you just decide like. And I think you're about to get to this. Maybe you just decide, like, you know what? Roman Reigns just is that guy. Like, Roman Reigns is never losing the title. He's going to beat Bruno's streak. He's going to have this title for the next few years. We're going to put the tag team titles on him. He's going to be the god of this company's history. And every time he continues to collect these belts, we'll just create new off-brand consolation versions of these. So maybe, since Roman already has 2 world titles and they've created a third for someone else to wrestle for, since they can't beat Roman for it, maybe he wins the tag team titles also. So now he carries all those belts. Maybe even make Solo give him his set. Maybe he's like, I want all 4 of these belts so I can carry these 4 plus my 2 world titles and have 6 titles. And then they have to create the WWE World Heavyweight Tag Team titles so that another team who has a shot, because they can't beat Roman. So you have to, you got to consolation prize this thing and make a third set of tag team titles because Roman can't be beat. So, yeah, how do you feel? I mean, I think if based on your reaction, it seems like you're like the idea of the latter. Like, are you actually into the idea of just Roman Reigns just never loses, wins all the titles, and just keep creating off-brand like consolation titles?
Into it? No, I think it's not the best idea in the world. Do I expect this to happen? Yes.
He's going to win the tag titles?
Oh, I fully expect them to win the tag titles. I think I'm 99% sure they're the tag titles here because I don't think Roman's taking the pinfall.
No, I agree.
I do think, look, it is good if Roman takes the pinfall and the Usos are like, what's up, Us? Like,
I just feel like that has to be a part of the story at some point. They have to start pointing the finger at him and saying, you can't keep saying this to us. You lost.
Yeah, at some point. But is that going to be now?
Right.
Probably not. Maybe Solo takes the pin, but really, he ain't taking many L. He took the L to Cody.
Hell yeah,
otherwise,
he did.
He ain't taking L's. I'm 99% sure Roman and Solo are winning those belts, and Roman is basically going to continue to gaslight and be like, "See, ain't that difficult? Why couldn't you get it done? You had 2 tries to get it done. Me and Solo did it in 1 shot. It ain't that difficult."
Solo's y'all's little brother. We got it done.
Maybe he hands the tag titles, a set of them, to the Usos as well. It's like, here. No. And then he can hold that over. He can hold it over them, though, Jensen. They love get Roman having the power. They can hold it over them of like, I just gave you these titles. Don't let me down. Like, I'm setting you up, setting the table. I'm setting the table for you. Don't screw it up. And he can just hold that power. And when they do screw it up, then it comes back around to him just cutting them down. And we just keep going with this. Just keep going with it. I'm for it.
Yeah.
I'm here for it.
Yeah. Do you think that Roman pins Sammy or KO? Or do you think Solo?
Both of them. Stack them. Stack them, smash them, pin them both.
Well,
bring in Kevin's wife, bring in Sammy, bring in the kids, pin them all. Get the whole bring in all of Canada, pin all of them.
Oh my gosh. I wonder how old little Owen Steen. You're probably old enough to actually get in the ring now almost. Kind of crazy. Yeah. Not that he necessarily has any reason. I just remember him being like, I remember when he was like born, because like Steen was like so public when he had his kid and everything. That was already a long time ago. Yeah, dude. I could see it happening. I mean, the thing with Owens and Zayn winning the tag titles and being the tag champions is, to be completely honest, from here on out, there's really nothing bigger that can happen for that team. You know what I mean? Like that, like the moment was them winning at WrestleMania. Now, once again, this is why it was so important that Cody should have won, because you could have they had an alliance going on into WrestleMania. You could have the three of them as the champions going on and feuding with the Bloodline after this, and that would have made a lot more sense. But, yeah, where we're at with this, I think it's very possible that I'm with you, Jeremy. I'm gonna actually predict that Roman and Solo win the tag team titles. But
throw up the one,
but
Jensen.
yeah,
We the ones. Throw it up. Come on, acknowledge your tribal chief. Look at that. The Cody Rhodes fan has acknowledged his tribal chief.
Yeah. Anyways, the thing is, I like Roman Reigns. I just don't like what has happened now. Like, I don't like that their foot is stuck this in the dirt, and like they just are unwilling to like. But whatever. I mean, well, this is a good transition. We're about to talk about this other title, anyways. If you want to set the stage for the next spotlight here.
So it's Night of Champions, but the undisputed WWE Universal Champion is not defending his title. Instead, he's going after the tag titles because 1,000 days, just hit it, done, hit the milestone. Not even going to defend it. Get the night off from defending that. We do have another championship to be decided at Night of Champions. It is the World Heavyweight Championship, and it'll be Seth Rollins against AJ Styles in the main event. I don't know if it'll be the main event actually, but in a match to decide the first World Heavyweight Champion. Seems like they were setting up Rollins to win this thing. AJ, we figured it would be AJ or Edge. I thought it was Edge as a kind of just a better story there, but AJ is going to be a great match. What are your thoughts on this match?
Yeah. I think that Rollins is going to be the champion. I think he'll win. But I think that I think that's a good move, by the way. The fans want it. He's great in the ring. He's done a great job with this whole new persona he's been doing and stuff. Like, and AJ is one of the best ever. Like, not just like, I mean, he's one of the legitimate goats of professional wrestling, in my opinion. AJ Styles is the man. He still goes out there and moves like he did 20 years ago. He doesn't do all the crazy stuff as often, but like he can. You know, if he wanted to go up there and hit a spiral tap, he absolutely could. He doesn't have to every match anymore, right? So I watched the qualifying matches, those triple threat matches and stuff. And I was with you. I thought that they did a really good job of making me feel like Edge had a really good chance because he did that that promo on social media talking about how, you know, he never lost the world title before he had to retire, and this would be the great way to finish his story and all that stuff. He sold me pretty well on it. And he also went out there and had a really good showing in the triple threat that he was in. So, and I want to see more of that out of Edge, by the way. I don't need to see like these long drawn out stories or these long drawn out, like, you know, matches or matches that are labeled the best match of all time before it even happens and that kind of stuff. Like, I think that Edge should just go out there and when I saw Edge this past SmackDown just having these kind of matches, it reminded me of just like early 2000s Edge, like SmackDown 6 Edge, but just older. And that's what I want out of Edge, like on his kind of farewell out of the WWE. I just give me that. Give me like the rated R superstar style Edge, just having really good matches against really good opponents. That's really all I need to see. If he wins the world title on the way out, cool. You know, I'm a big Edge fan. I know you're not too high on the guy. You call him out a lot, but yeah, so but all that said, I think that Styles versus Rollins is the best match in ring you could put on for this title, given like the people available and the people that would make sense. And this is also a rematch from, when did this happen last? Wasn't this like a world title match? Well, I know Balor. Sorry, maybe like confused. Balor, and I know Balor and Rollins was for the undisputed or the Universal, and we got that rematch on Raw. When have we seen Rollins and Styles last?
Money in the Bank 2022 was it was a Money in the Bank qualifying match. Apologies.
That's it. Okay. So they've been pretty. Oh, sorry, go ahead.
And then they worked they had a couple matches in 2022. One was the DQ, one was the Money in the Bank qualifying match. They've not had, from what I see here, and I don't remember one. They haven't had a singles match on pay-per-view. Oh no, Money in the Bank 2019. That was for the Universal title.
That's the one I was thinking. I knew they fought for the world title at some point, but it was already all the way back to 2019 though. Gotcha. the time is so messed up for me because of the pandemic. Like pretty much 2020, 2000, like the mid like 2021 just feels like 1 year to me. It's like, anyways, so yeah, so I'm glad we're getting this match again, but I mean, yeah, legitimately, and even for someone like me and for you, I'm sure as well, it's weird because I still get these like flashbacks when I see the two of them on like a marquee against one another, and I'm like, that's TNA AJ Styles versus Tyler Black from Ring of Honor. You know what I mean? Like it's just 20 years later, and there's just so much has changed. You know, but both guys are still at the top of the game. You know, even to this day, in the biggest company in the world. So, but my prediction is Seth Rollins is gonna be the champion.
It seems like the title is designed for Rollins to take it. The fact that he's now filming a Marvel movie, kind of, maybe a little pause because he wasn't on Raw this week. Doesn't seem like he's going to be on Raw next week because of the filming. They're just doing pre-tape interviews with him. So maybe that, if he's got those commitments, then it won't be a champion who is there every single week.
Wouldn't that be something?
It'd be hilarious. People in the chat have said that, oh, maybe AJ wins and then the champion goes to Raw. So
Right.
Maybe AJ wins, goes to Raw. And I've seen people say you trade the club for Cody, and then Cody can go to SmackDown. We had a super chat from Anime Fan who said, with all these Rollins Reigns hints, I worry that Cody ends the story with the World Heavyweight title while Reigns breaks Hogan's record. He's also losing to Brock at Night of Champions.
I think it's possible. I think it's very possible he loses to Brock at Night of Champions. I hate that, but I think it's possible. But then again, Cody did beat Seth 3 out of 3. So like that's possible too. But yeah, no, I agree with everything that really everyone's saying about all this. I think it's very possible Roman at this point just breaks Hogan's record. Or once again, even it's possible he breaks Bruno's record. It'd take a few more years, but like if he's part-time and they're just going to have other people fight for world titles, you can hold that belt forever. It just comes in and wrestles once every few months. But yeah, I mean, good for Rollins for like getting the movie and stuff. That's a big deal for him. And I'm sure this will be a good match. I think it's strange, by the way, that they set this whole thing up for the World Heavyweight title where like they made it Raw exclusive right off the rip, but then SmackDown talents were involved. That's like you're immediately downplaying the brand split, which I called, by the way, like before they even did the draft. I was like,
They had Heyman. They had Heyman show up on Raw. He just got a visitor's pass. Does this mean like anybody could just go and get a visitor's pass and show up on the other brand?
Actually, it does, Jeremy, because remember, they will just make up reasons. Remember the wild card rule?
Oh, that was great. Yes.
No, it wasn't. But it was something. So I think that that's just what it is. They're just gonna put whoever they want on every show, anyways, and then just make up some sort of weird loophole that's just like, oh, so and so just on this show now for whatever. I'm just hoping Cody stays on Raw selfishly because I have no interest in watching SmackDown on Friday nights. But like Monday nights, I have nothing going on usually after work, and if the show's interesting enough, I'll watch it. But if not, I'm just gonna play Fortnite probably instead.
They should just do invited guest. Like Sammy and Kevin come out and be like, Cody's our invited guest this week, and then Cody shows up on SmackDown.
Yeah. I mean, the thing is, Cody really should be on SmackDown because, like, he should be going after Roman. But that's why I think Money in the Bank makes a lot of sense because that would give him the reason to not have to be brand exclusive. But
Roman's winning Money in the Bank.
Oh, that'd really be something. If Roman, imagine that Roman gets Money in the Bank, holds it for a year, never cashes it in on himself, obviously, and just doesn't get used for a year.
I fantasy booked this, and like I think all my ideas are great, but Solo actually wins Money in the Bank, and Roman's just like, let me get that. Let me get that.
I like that idea a lot, actually.
And then so he kind of takes that from Solo, and then he follows Rollins around as well. Rollins is the champion, and he just like shows up. Remember Rollins when he got his first title, cashed it in, pinned Roman at WrestleMania. So Roman now has got the briefcase. Rollins has got this new title, and he's like, I got this right here. You just watch yourself. All right? Just watch yourself around here. Remember what happened at that Mania. Just watch yourself.
I like that. I actually like that idea. But like, I will say, if the end game, which I still think they fumbled the move big time at WrestleMania, obviously, but if the end game is somehow by next WrestleMania, Roman Reigns has all 3 of the world titles, like he has finagled his way into also being the World Heavyweight Champion on top of the Universal and the WWE Champion, and that becomes the Undisputed Championship as 3 titles, and then Cody beats him for that.
See, there you go.
I see. It's all year too. It's all year too late. But I mean, at least Cody
Cody's
gets 3 titles
him.
now.
Cody's not beating him, but see, it'll make a lot of sense if he just gets all 3 titles, and now we're back to just one big title and a champion who's going to be on all brands. But Cody's probably not that guy. Roman's just going to hold these titles forever.
I'm about to say that's really the end. That's really the kind of the end result here at the end of the day, because and I know we need to move on to other topics, but like the one very something that needs to be pointed out about this whole conversation we're having is not once during any of this did we ever say like anyone else's name is even a possibility to beat Roman Reigns. We're just like, maybe Cody will do it at SummerSlam, maybe he'll do it at WrestleMania, maybe we won't do it at all. But there's no one else who's got a shot. So,
all right. Now, I mean, you could build up. Maybe it's Solo at some point. Maybe it's the Usos. There's plenty of story there with those guys.
It won't be Solo. I'll put all my money on it won't be Solo. I like Solo, but it won't be Solo beating Roman.
Right. We'll see. We shall see. We're only in maybe the top of the 4th. Maybe whoever 2 outs in the 3rd.
Whoever beats Roman, it needs to be a Cody type as far as like the guy who they think is going to
Austin
be
Theory.
Well, and that's unfortunately, I think he has a better chance than Solo, and that's I think Solo could become like the world champion of the WWE. I'm not that's not what I'm saying. It's like he's incapable of doing that. I just think he's a bit too new to it, and like I think whoever's going to get the rub off of Roman eventually is going to be the guy who they see as like the morning talk show guy. That's why Cody fit the mold so well, because that's what they need to replace Roman as like the face of the company. Solo could do that, but he's a guy who like we don't really know much about like his mic skills. He's pretty limited in the ring. He has a cool gimmick and character. I was watching his work on NXT Level Up before he debuted on the main roster. Like I'm very aware of Solo Sikoa, and I've seen his whole progression along the way. He's gotten a lot better. And like I said, I think he has potential to maybe be the world champion one day, but I don't see him being the guy to beat Roman Reigns.
Babyface Austin Theory. Get ready, everybody.
Don't like that idea, but I think it's possible.
Our product is what it is. We're going straight up the middle.
The wrestling world sadly lost superstar Billy Graham yesterday at the age of 79. He's been dealing with health issues for a very long time. It started with a liver transplant, I think in 2002. And then since then, just a laundry list of health issues. And he had to undergo emergency surgery last week. And then he was on life support earlier this week. And sadly, he passed away. Jensen, I think we're both maybe a little too young to remember the glory days of superstar Billy Graham, but I have been watching some stuff this morning, and not only have I been watching stuff, seeing the charisma, seeing the promos and everything, just listening to the peers talk about him, Ric Flair, Hulk Hogan, I think Scott Steiner has referenced, like there's been a lot of people, Jesse Ventura, there's been a lot of people who have just discussed how much influence Billy Graham had on their careers and wrestling in general.
Yeah, I'm with you. I mean, for those of you who don't know, me and Jeremy are the same age. We're both in like our mid 30s. So we just missed superstar Billy Graham, but obviously I'm very aware of his influence in the wrestling business. Yes, I mean you can't look at Hulk Hogan and not think superstar Billy Graham. You know, if you know Billy Graham was there first, you would look at that and be like, he clearly took inspiration. I saw, like you said, Ric Flair. I saw he tweeted last night. One of the most guys that he inspired him and stuff. And I know Billy Graham was a former WWF champion. Like really early on, he was probably one of their first like 5 world champions they've ever had. And he, I mean, it's a bummer. I mean, this kind of stuff happens. People get older. I don't know how old Billy Graham was, but
79.
79. So I mean, you lived a long life, especially for a dude who had to have gone as hard as he did. Like, I don't know about like behind the scenes or whatever. I'm probably making some unfair assumptions, but we know like those dudes were going hard back in his day out on the road and stuff like that. And then in the ring and how many days a year those guys used to wrestle and the the lack of like modern medicine and the self-medication and all that kind of stuff. And like to make it to, 80 years old, 79, 80, coming from that era of wrestling, I think alone is like pretty impressive, kind of all things considered. And obviously I don't like seeing anybody pass away. And, I don't, it's a bummer that he had to kind of like suffer towards the end. It sounds like he dealt with a lot of health issues, but he lived a good life from what I understand. At least he's well respected and loved within the wrestling community. And that's what I think to most wrestlers is what they care about the most. They probably care about, what their family thinks about them and what the wrestling fans think about them when it's all said and done. And he's a guy who it's one of those things. It's a bummer from the perspective of like, I don't know enough about his career to sit here and like deep dive, like what matches to go watch and all that stuff. But I know he was a larger than life persona. He's a guy that had heavy influence on a lot of characters and wrestlers that then went on. Cause like, if you look at Billy Graham and then you look at like, a Hulk Hogan or a Ric Flair, and then you look at like a Shawn Michaels, and then you look at like a Dolph Ziggler, you know what I mean? It's like, it all goes down the line of like, this guy influenced this guy, who influenced this guy, who influenced this guy. And like, I think Billy Graham was kind of the starting point for a lot of people we like nowadays, taking little bits and pieces about what he did.
Go watch any Billy Graham promo from back then. And I've been watching a few this morning and everything. Go watch it. Realize when he was cutting these promos. And then if you are a fan of like a Hulk Hogan, somebody said Hogan owes his career to Billy Graham. Like, yeah, if you're a fan of Hogan or just, how big Hogan is, you've seen a Hogan promo, you'll see the similarities. Same thing with like a Ric Flair, Jesse Ventura, some Dusty Rhodes in there as well. Like there is you see the influence that Billy Graham had on some of the biggest stars in wrestling. Yeah, he was before our time to watch him like live and everything. But go back and watch his stuff, watch his presence, watch his promos, and you can see the influence of, probably guys that maybe you did grow up with. Whether it was, golden age stuff or whether it was even some attitude era stuff and just how guys like presented themselves and carried themselves, everything. You can see it. I think Austin and Triple H have both referenced Billy Graham, maybe Rock as well, have all referenced.
Sure. Stunning Steve
like
Austin looked a lot like Superstar Billy Graham. Yeah.
So a lot of influence there with Billy Graham. So very sad. Condolences and best wishes to his family, his friends, and the fans of Billy Graham. So very sad news last night that came out.
Absolutely.
Yeah. There's no great transition from that, but the other spotlight is MLW being on Fite Plus now, and they're going to be running live events finally, which we've all been waiting for. Jensen, you cover the MLW for the Weekender, and we've talked about MLW a lot, how they tape shows and then 8 months later maybe you watch them. Now we're going to finally see them a little bit more in real time thanks to Fight TV and Fite Plus.
Yeah, thanks Court or whoever's involved with that finally happening. Like, thank you. Like, I sincerely mean this. I'm not trying to be like, I'm probably kind of condescending, but it's like, we've been waiting a while for this, right? Thank you. Thank you, MLW, for finally taking that leap into the future, right? Like, we're living in the future now. All right. You can't expect to have buzz in the wrestling space when you're taping shows and then airing them 8 months later. And by the time that they air, half the roster is on other programming. So this is great. Okay. I say this often. I'll preface this. IndependentWrestling.tv. I have a promo code. It's Fight Talk. I use that all. I tell people to use that all the time. I'm actually like endorsed by them in some way or shape or form. Fight Plus, I'm not. And I'm just saying this as a fan. I don't know what the cost is currently. I know I get it for $5 a month because I got in when it started. I think it's like $7 a month now.
I think it's up to $8.
Yeah, regardless. 1,000,000% worth your money if you're a wrestling fan. Even if you just like GCW and just want to watch live GCW events, it is 100% worth that $8 a month. It's the best $8 bucks you're going to spend on really anything, I think, if you're a wrestling fan. MLW being a part of this is massive because finally we get to see live events. It's going to help the company. It's going to help the company with their buzz. It's going to help the company just with exposure and visibility and people just wanting to watch the show. And it's good for Fight Plus too, because it gives them another that's a stacked platform. It pretty much now at every weekend you go on there and it's like just wrestling show after wrestling show. And then, if you don't like wrestling, obviously like wrestling for watching this, but if there's no wrestling on, sometimes they have live combat sports or some like random other thing or like a random interview that they're running or something. And it's a really great platform for especially for the money. Honestly, for what I get out of that service, I'd pay like legitimately like $20-$30 a month for that service, considering, well, I'm just saying, because like that's how much value I think you're getting out of it, honestly, because you're like, I'm somebody who follows the majority of these companies that run live shows off of Fight Plus. And it's like, I can get it all right here for $8 or for me for $5. It's great. So MLW being a part of this, if you are on the fence about MLW or you haven't watched the product or you haven't watched it in a while, I'd recommend checking it out when they return. The big thing that they got brewing right now is Alex Kane's going to be challenging Alexander Hammerstone for the MLW championship. And I feel like there's a good shot that Alex Kane could win the title. They built him as like one of the most credible challengers that Hammerstone's had. And Hammerstone's had the title now for like 2+ years, something like that. So like, I'd recommend it. I think MLW puts on a good show, by the way. Like, I think they're a consistently good show. They're excuse me, same with MLW Underground. But the issue has always been the lag, the waiting to watch it. And if this fixes that problem, I think it's going to be massive for MLW. And it's also going to give wrestlers, I think, more incentive to want to work there because they know like their work's going to be out there immediately, and they're not going to be in this weird limbo where like they may or may not be able to work other companies while they're waiting for MLW to air their stuff and stuff like that too. You know what I mean? I think this is just going to work out great for everybody.
I think it's good for the wrestlers for that reason. Is now they can get their work out there quicker. And it's just better because when MLW came back, they're carrying cross matches that were taped before he came back to the company, and he'd been back for 6 months by the time these matches aired and everything. So you couldn't get that immediacy when it came to MLW. So now you'll get that with Fight Plus. And I think that is very good for the wrestlers. Like MLW's got some name behind it. Say what you will about it. It's not for everybody, but it's got some name recognition behind it and everything. So I think it's a good platform for wrestlers in that sense too. So I think it's good for the wrestlers. It's good for fans that they get the immediacy of it. Look, there's no shortage of wrestling out there if you want to watch this stuff. Hopefully people can discover some new talent. MLW does some stuff I like. They do some stuff I don't like, but that's really the case with any wrestling company that's out there nowadays. It's good. It's always good when there is more immediacy and there is a bigger platform for wrestlers to perform on.
Yes. And I'm just going to say this really quickly. It's off topic, but I wanted to bring it up because I talk about it on the Weekender almost every week. And this past weekend was no different. This needs to be pointed out. MLW making good moves here, doing these kind of decisions. The National Wrestling Alliance. This needs to be noted. Okay. I need to put this on here for the spotlight. I talk about it on the Weekender all the time. Because people might even say something like this about NWA, where they might be like, man, if NWA just got on Fight Plus, like then
they could turn around. They had their own like section of Fight TV.
But it was like still its own, like it wasn't a part of like the 5 a month. I'm saying if they were like MLW now and like they went in on like the 5 a month package, right? It still isn't going to help the National Wrestling Alliance. And the reason is, well, I know, but I'm just saying like my point, Jeremy, is this past episode of Power, okay, there was 4 matches on the show. Okay. The first match ended in a time limit draw. The second match ended with cheating to win. The third match was literally one move. It was Bully Ray hitting a rock bottom 1, 2, 3. It was like a 5-second match. The fourth match was a double count out. That was the whole show of wrestling matches, was time limit draw, cheating, one move, double count out. And that's pretty consistently what the NWA product looks like week after week. And that's why people don't care about it. On top of like Tyrus being the champion and stuff like that, I get all that. But like when you have a champion already is like immobile to the point of like you can't do somersaults and the NWA World Heavyweight Champion, but like it's like some people can get past that because like that's just one wrestler. Granted, he's holding the main championship, but it's just one wrestler. But then you look at the rest of the show and you're like, oh, okay, none of these matches have finishes. It's like, why would anyone spend their time watching this? I mean, I do because I get paid to review it for the Weekender. If I wasn't, there's no way I'd be watching the NWA Weekly. There's no way at this point I'd be watching it.
Jensen, I banned NWA talk from this program like a year ago at this point because it got so bad. Yes,
yeah.
I'm not talking about.
But listen, there's some people over there that I like. Shout out Fodder, shout out Angelina Love. Like, there's some people over there that I like. It's like it's unfortunate that what they need to do. If you're the NWA, even if this was just for the immediate short-term buzz, even if it's just to trick a fan base into watching your show, you need to go out for and do a set of tapings where you put on like Ninja. You go get like Ninja Mac versus like Dante Leone. And you have them put on like a 25-minute long banger on NWA Power and just clip the clips, spam social media, and just get people to watch the show. Just have good matches with talent that people care about.
Because then people tune in and they are tricked, and then you upset your fan base, whatever.
But at least somebody watches the show. Because that's the whole problem, I think, with NWA. Nobody cares because every time
it's not good.
But then the problem is, of course, you watch Ninja Mac versus Dante Leone, and then you get to the main event, and Tyrus can't run. And you're like, oh, so like I get it, but I'm just saying, like, I want the NWA to succeed. I want all these companies to succeed. But man, I watch NWA every week to review it, and I'm sitting there week after week going like, how could I've given Billy Corgan the benefit of the doubt for like way too long. Maybe because I'm biased. Maybe because one of the first concerts I ever went to was a Swan concert when he was on break from Smashing Pumpkins. So I've got like this weird attachment to Billy Corgan. Yeah. But yeah, no, it's bad. It's really bad. Anyway, I wanted to point that out. That was going to be the other spotlight today before the passing of Billy Graham. Obviously, Billy Graham much more important. But yeah, we can move on now since I got about 10 minutes before I gotta go to work.
I'm going to give a big motherfucking shout out.
Craig Mitchell won the Freelance Rumble this past weekend. Jensen, what can you tell us about this?
So I like this a lot. We talked about Craig a few weeks ago. I'm a big fan of his. And what they wound up doing, so he's in this storyline right now with Shane Mercer, which we spotlighted a couple weeks back. And earlier in the show for this Freelance show, it was Freelance's The Last of Us. It's available on IWTV. Use code Fight Talk. They also have Freelance Underground available there too. They did back-to-back shows. Or I guess one day after another shows. But so Craig Mitchell and Shane Mercer wound up doing they fought to a no contest earlier in the show where like Mercer shoved the referee and Mitchell used the chair. So they wound up like fighting on the outside and the referee just like threw the match out. But then Craig wound up winning the Rumble at the end. So what that earns him is he now gets a shot at Storm Grayson's Freelance Championship on June 9th. And I think it's interesting because Storm Grayson's been a great champion for them. I like him. But I do think that they should put the title on Craig Mitchell, just my personal opinion. If Craig's more or less been the face of that company for years, but he's never been their world champion. And there's reasons for that. Like he's been kind of in and out of the wrestling business at points. He's had injuries and stuff like that. I think his passion for wrestling has waned here and there throughout the years. I've talked to him about that too. Like I talked to him years ago and he was telling me like there were certain bookings he wasn't taking because he knew that there was other wrestlers who just like wanted it more than he did. And he kind of was like, had his focus elsewhere and he didn't want to like prevent other people from getting booked when he knew he wasn't 100% into it at the time and stuff like that. So I really respect dudes like Craig. Thinking about other people like that and stuff, and he's very talented himself. So anyway, Craig, that's kind of why I want to spotlight this. Craig won the Freelance Rumble. He gets a shot at Storm Grayson June 9th for the title, and I don't know if Craig's going to win the title there, and then him versus Mercer will continue for the title, their feud, or if Mercer will screw over Craig, and maybe Mercer will win the title from Storm Grayson sometime soon, and then Craig will eventually win it from Mercer, because that's kind of like a better long-term story as a babyface. I feel like would be Craig beating Mercer for it later on. But anyways, that's my spotlight. I'm interested in what Freelance is doing. I like Craig Mitchell. I like Shane Mercer. I like Storm Grayson, and all three of those guys are heavily involved in Freelance right now. And we got Craig Mitchell versus Storm Gracie for the title on June 9th.
Talked about it last time when we talked about Craig and Storm, or Craig and Shane Mercer as the spotlight. But I like when independent companies do like storylines, and our Freelance doesn't always get a ton of buzz, but there's just so many independent companies that just do banger match, banger match, banger match, all that stuff. Like there's an actual story here, which I love. And to me, I don't have any insight on this. To me, like if what you're saying about Craig is, maybe he's in and out and everything, maybe he's just not a long-term like champion. Maybe he does beat Storm Grayson and then Shane Mercer takes the title from him, a show or two down the line. And Mercer is actually their long-term champion on this. And Craig is sort of Tommy Dreamer-esque in that he's just kind of a transition guy for them to set up Shane Mercer as their next kind of long-term champion.
It's possible. And Grant, what I was saying about Craig being in and out, that was a little while back. I don't know if he's like fully committed currently. I don't know. He's a guy who should probably get on the spotlight soon. I'll reach out to him soon about getting him on. But he's a really creative guy. I've talked about this before on the show where like years back when Mustafa Ali started doing his like street vigilante, like, whatever those videos, remember he was like going out and like cleaning up the streets and stuff like that.
Yeah.
Craig Mitchell was the guy behind the camera for a lot of those early videos. And then WWE like liked it. And then they started producing them themselves. But initially that was a Craig Mitchell collaboration with Ali. Those guys, Ali originally trained Mitchell, or was one of his trainers. They're both from Chicago. So is Freelance. That's why this is all so big for that area. But like, but yeah, anyway, I personally speaking, like I said, I want to see Craig Mitchell win the title, but I also have it in the back of my mind, he's got this feud going on with Shane Mercer. So I don't know how it's going to play out, but I like it. I'm interested. And I'm going to continue to cover it on the Weekender for y'all. So if you like this kind of talk, because obviously we cover various indies here on the Spotlight, pretty much every Freelance show that's happening right now, I've been covering on the Weekender, so if you want more talk about this, that'd be a good place to check out.
The other indie spotlight is Masha Slamovich winning the Queen of Indies. This was a joint promotion between West Coast Pro and Pro Wrestling Revolution that took place this past weekend. She defeated Hyan in the first round. She teamed with Mio Momono. Yes, said that much better than I did. In the second round to defeat Lady Frost and Unagi Sayaka, and then she defeated Mio in the finals to crowned the Queen of Indies. Masha signed to Impact. There's a lot of work with Impact, but also just absolutely killing it on the independent scene. And she just won a tournament, the Fight Life World Title tournament a few weeks ago. Now she wins the tournament, Queen of Indies. Sure. So
when she's the current GCW World Champion. I mean, she's the man, dude. I thought this tournament was great for what it's worth. I think people should go check this out. This is on IWTV. I'll say, just because I know I'm short on time, I'll say the match between Mio and Masha was probably my favorite match of the entire weekend of anything that I watched. That match absolutely rules. The whole show was good. I highly recommend checking it all out. And I like the format of this, by the way. The way that they do this tournament, and this is the first year they've done it, the way they do it is it's 4 first-round singles matches, and then 2 of the winners from the singles matches and the other 2 wrestle each other in a tag team match in the next round. The winners of that tag team match wrestle each other in a singles match for the finals. So that's how we got to Mio versus Masha, was they both won opening round matches. They teamed together to beat Lady Frost and Sayaka, and then they wrestled each other to crown the first ever Queen of Indies. And I was thinking on the preview last week when we were talking about it that, I didn't know who they were going to go with. I didn't know if they were going to go with someone maybe like Mio that like I didn't know as much about, but I don't know how available she is like to be in West Coast Pro often, or if they were going to go with someone who was already well established like a Masha Slamovich. But the thing with Masha, and the reason I think Masha makes so much sense, outside of obviously her talent and her being champion and all this other stuff, all the great stuff she's doing and how great she is in the ring. I say this all the time. I sound like a broken record. If you gave me five wrestlers right now on the planet, I could only choose 5 wrestlers to watch. She'd be on my list of 5 right now. On top of all that, she's available to West Coast Pro. Like, she wrestles out there, consistently too. So like they can use this for more than just a one-off thing. And also this extends beyond just PWR and West Coast Pro. This is called the Queen of Indies. So now she has again this title she can kind of use elsewhere too if she wanted to. So yeah, shout out to Masha Slamovich. I mean, if y'all know me and listen to any of my stuff, you already know how highly I think about Masha. I was waving the flag before she won the GCW title. I was one of the few people saying, like, in my heart, in my mind, I was saying Nick Gage because I didn't think he dropped the title so close to the Collective. But I was saying in my heart, and I was saying if it was up to me, I'd put that world title on Masha. And I'm glad that they did it. So all the success she's having makes total sense. Whether an Impact, GCW, Independence, whatever. But yeah, congratulations to the Queen of Indies, Masha Slamovich. And also, once again, I can't stress it enough. If y'all have limited time, you can only watch like maybe a match or a few matches, this week or this weekend or whatever. Make one of those matches, Masha Slamovich versus Mio. That was a great match.
Masha is the belt collector on the indies as well. I mean, maybe it's because she is so tied to the independents and is doing so much work there. She's part of Impact. She's doing well in Impact, but it feels like she could be an even bigger part of that knockouts division. And she was for a while there, but it's tapered off after she challenged for the title and didn't win it. So I hope that kind of gets, and she's been involved in the Tommy Dreamer, Bully Ray stuff. Like, I hope it gets reignited where she's a bigger part of just the knockouts division overall, because yeah, she's killing it right now, and she's on all these independent shows as well. She's defending the GCW title in like a 6-way match this week, which should be who's in that?
I don't know. I have to take a look at that.
I know. I think it's Allison Kay is in it. Lufisto. It's all off the top of my head. It would help if I remembered it. Shaza is part of it as well. And there's a couple more that
it's an all women's match for the GCW title.
I believe so. Okay, here it is. I got it. Okay, so it's Masha, Lufisto, Shaza, Maki Ito, Allison Kay, and Allie Catch. That's who it is. Nice. So yeah, all women's match for the GCW title.
Wow, look how far we've come as a world. The company most known synonymously to the casual viewer as like the deathmatch wrestling company in the States has their world champion is female, and there's an all-female match for that title. And nobody can really have a problem with it because all the talent is there. You know what I mean? Pretty awesome.
So that's GCW on Saturday. Jensen, I got to run. Let everybody know where they can find you at.
You can find me on Twitter at FightTalk _ FIGHTTALK. I can't spell. FIGHTTALK _. You can use code FightTalk on independentwrestling.tv or IWTV.live. It's the same place. And please listen to the Fightful Select Weekender podcast. I should be dropping it on Sunday this weekend. I'll be covering the World of Indies. Once again, shout out and happy birthday to our boy SP3. It's his birthday today. It's my birthday on Monday. So I'll be taking some days off probably. I got to tell you about that, Jeremy, as far as like our schedule for interviewing. I'll be here on Thursday for the show. I'll talk to you about for our next interview and stuff. And also maybe I'll pop in on In the Weeds on Monday or something. I have the day off, so maybe I'll pop up if you guys want me on there for a few minutes. But yeah, you guys might see a little bit of me. You'll hear from me over the weekend. You might see a little bit of me over the weekend. Degrassi Dudes with me and SP3, that should drop sometime tomorrow on Overbooked. I'm already late to work. My boss is probably already texting me like, where are you? So I'm going to go clock in for my shoe job. Good seeing everyone in the chat. Good to see everyone. Good to see you, Jeremy. And y'all all have a great weekend.
Thank you, Stephen Jensen. You'll see Stephen Jensen here in a second. Our interview with kevxku, which is about to air, which is a fantastic interview. This man dabbing out here. So yes, we're going to get into the interview with kevxku, who discussed his time. Discussed time in Deadlock Pro Wrestling. He talked about the call out of FTR. He and Dominic Garrini talked about wrestling teaming with Dominic Garrini. Talked about like kind of changing things in the pandemic. A really fun interview with kevxku. Very gracious with his time. He initially was like, I got like 20-30 minutes, and you'll hear me like try to wrap after 30 minutes. Like, no, I'm good. We got more time. So clearly Kevin seemed to have fun and enjoy the conversation we were having with him. So great interview with kevxku. Stephen Jensen brings up a lot of stuff when it comes to Southern Underground Pro and everything Kevin is doing there, and the match matches he's had in the past. Jensen is a fountain of knowledge when it comes to that scene, and Kevin is big time in that scene as well. So a great conversation with kevxku. I will go ahead and say this before the interview runs, because I didn't say it earlier, and Jensen brought it up as well. Happy birthday to SP3. Great friend. You see him plenty here on Fightful Overbooked. He's on FMC every Tuesday with me talking basketball and reality television. He does the Grassy News with Jensen. He co-hosted In the Weeds with me the other week. SP3 is just doing great work in the wrestling media space, just all together. Go check out True Heel Heat. Go give him a follow, True Heel SP3. Just doing fantastic work in wrestling. So everyone showing some love on his birthday. On top of being a hard worker and contributing a lot to this space, one of the nicest people I've ever met, a person I consider a good friend. So yeah, big shout out to SP3 and happy birthday, buddy. All right, let's get into this interview with kevxku. He is one of, for my money, part of the best tag team in independent wrestling, Violence is Forever, alongside Dominic Guarini. Stephen Jensen gives him a huge intro with all of his championships that he has won and currently holds. Here we go, everybody. Here's our Creator Spotlight with kevxku.
Welcome to the Creator Spotlight, the interview portion of the Spotlight here on Fightful with myself and Jeremy Lambert. And today, our guest is a former PWF Heavyweight Champion, a former PWF Tag Team Champion, a former Action Wrestling Champion, a former Action Wrestling Tag Team Champion, a former BLP Tag Team Champion, a former C4 Tag Team Champion, a former IWTV Independent Wrestling Tag Team Champion, the current reigning and defending SUP Tag Team Champion, and DPW World Tag Team Champion, along with his partner, Dominic Guarini, as Violence is Forever. Our guest today is kevxku. Kevin, thanks for joining us, and how are you doing today?
Yeah, great. How are you guys?
doing great.
Long intro.
Yes,
You've won a lot of titles. You've won a lot of titles.
That's not even all of them there. That's just the ones that I wanted to highlight in the intro, but yeah, drinking gold. Yeah, but thanks for joining us, man.
Yeah. Thanks for having me on here.
Yeah. So just full disclosure before we get started, I wanted to just kind of let everyone know a little background for like myself as a fan, because it's very connected to you in a lot of ways. You might not even know this, but and this is a big reason why I really wanted to interview you today. Is years ago, I interviewed you around the time that Southern Underground Pro started, you and Jesse. And that was at a time in my fandom where like I was kind of like 1 foot in, 1 foot out on like the WWE product. I didn't know a whole lot about like the independent scene, and you guys were starting this local company. And I credit SUP and what you guys did there really like reinvigorating my love as a fan. And without that, and without the connections I made through that company, I would never have this job with Fightful. So like I wanted to thank you first and foremost for everything you did with that company, because it really made me a fan again.
Oh, that's really awesome to hear. I appreciate that, because like when me and Jesse started, like in our interview, I'm pretty sure I said like we never set out to be like the biggest indie company in the world or anything like that. We just wanted to have fun with our friends, and I hope that really translated to the fans and people watching, like even the wrestlers there. Like we just wanted to have a good time with people, and I'm glad that it helped you out coming back into the independent scene.
Oh, big time. And I made a lot of great friends there. Like, guys like Mose and girls like Kayla and stuff, like people I didn't know at all that are just other wrestling fans that I got to meet through Nashville and that whole scene. And I actually saw the other day on Twitter that you guys are still running shows for SUP, but you're currently like looking for a venue. So that's kind of where things are at right now at SUP, it sounds like.
Yeah, it's a bit hard because I live in Chicago now, and a lot of like the venues we used to run in Nashville got taken over by Live Nation. So like they're not, like even Base and East is taken over by Live Nation now. So it's like a lot harder to get shows that like aren't done by like talent agents and shit like that done, like booked there. So it's just like, it's been a process and a really large headache, because like we took some time off so I could move and get settled. And then I tried to find a place at the beginning of the year, but then that's when everything switched over to Live Nation. And then I just have not gotten any good responses from anyone.
Gotcha. Well, it's good to know that like it's still going, because Alec Price is out there with that title, and there's a lot of unfinished business going on. So, but yeah, I miss seeing those shows a lot. So I'm hoping that gets figured out soon. But I love seeing that tweet though. I was like, okay, because I didn't know what the future of SUP was. I had no idea. So it was good to know that you're just trying to find a venue right now.
Yeah, we're all trying. I mean, me and like Dylan Hales obviously helps a lot, and he's busy with his own stuff too. So it's just like, again, it's not like a super priority where like we feel like we have to run a show, because we want to run a show. If we run a show, we want it to be proper and we want to have fun with it. We don't want like the stress of like, oh, we have to run the show because that's the expectation of everyone. No, we want to have fun and run a show. So we're just waiting for like the right venue and the right time.
Well, and simultaneously to that company's success on the independent level, and especially like in the Southeast, you yourself, along with Dominic Greeny, like you guys like really blew up over the last handful of years. What has all that been like? I mean, not because it's hard enough just to juggle your own career, I'm sure, but you're also trying to like promote shows and you're traveling to other countries. Yeah. I mean, like you're busy as hell.
Yeah, I mean, it really started like in October 2019 when we went over to WXW for the tag tournament there, and then a lot of momentum happened, and then obviously the pandemic happened, so things shut down. But then it was weird because I feel like we were some of the few people that really came out good during the pandemic era of wrestling. Like we really kind of took a step back and reinvented ourselves and like looked at who we wanted to be as wrestlers and like as people. So that, like, I think the 6-7 months that there weren't shows going on like really helped us reevaluate things, because we couldn't do anything else but just like bullshit with each other or watch wrestling or like talk about this, talk about that, and think about what's going to happen when we come back. And you'll see like who really took that time during that period to better themselves and like where they are now. And like it helped us a lot, because obviously like we went to WXW, went back to WXW, went to Progress. We just came back from Japan. Like we go to Canada every month. It's just like there's a lot going on. Like all those titles that you mentioned at the beginning of the show, like 90% of those have happened since the pandemic. Like since shows came back from the pandemic. So it's only been like 2 years that we've had all those. So it's been like it's hard to like really sit back and appreciate things, and that's what I've been trying to do more of, because last year me and Dom both had 100 matches each, so like that's a lot in a year for independent wrestlers that like don't have any sort of backing behind them. So like we really took our time with it this year so far, where like we wanted to think about more quality than quantity things, and also our bodies were starting to fall apart last year.
I mean, working the schedule you guys work, I would imagine you would need breaks every now and again. But I want to touch on something you mentioned about the pandemic and like taking time to kind of evaluate things. So what did you like do and look at and try to piece together during the pandemic that you guys came out of it? And I mean, look, Violence is Forever to me, one of, if not the absolute best independent tag team out there. So like what did you do specifically in the pandemic to be like, okay, this is what we need to do once everything kind of returns to normal?
Me specifically, I really like took better care of like nutrition and like my body. So I was the best possible person I could be, like coming through the pandemic and like working through shows through there. And then we really like, we were always the tag team where we both loved like early to mid 2000s Ring of Honor, but I don't think we ever really conveyed that in our wrestling. So like once we were like during the pandemic and we were talking about what we're going to do when we come back, I think we really like started to dial that in. And like, I think that that's our current style right now. And I think that that's what people are really gravitating to, right? Especially with like the relaunch of Ring of Honor. People are really remembering like that was the golden era of independent wrestling to a lot of people. Like most everyone that we talk to, like at the merch table or like wrestlers in the back, like that's what they watch and they'll go back and watch.
Yeah, 100%. And and speaking of Ring of Honor, I mean, like obviously I'd like to see you and Dom everywhere. Ring of Honor seems like somewhere you guys would be a great fit, and there's people you've called out there. I don't know if is the header picture on your Twitter, is that your call out of FTR? Is that picture?
Yeah, I think so.
Okay, because like I assumed it was based solely on Dom's face. I can see the reaction. He's like, "What's this guy saying right now?"
Well, they gave us an open mic and told me to say whatever I wanted, and said if I wanted to talk about FTR, I could. So I said, okay, whatever. Because I don't know how many people know this, but that match was supposed to happen a couple of times, like last year, or like end of 2021 to 2022. But it just like obviously they're super busy, so it never worked out with their schedule. So we're waiting.
Yeah, I don't know if you want to see more to that, Jeremy. It looks like you have something on the tip of your tongue.
Oh yeah, I was gonna say, yeah, like where was it supposed to happen? And has there been any progress towards making that happen now? Because look, they've taken independent bookings here and there, and it seemed like we mentioned it on our show of like you don't do a call out like that unless it seems like it's gonna come together. And so when it happened, Jensen and I were both like, oh, they're probably going to get this match somewhere, whether it's an ROH taping or somewhere. So yeah,
it's like an obvious dream match where like you guys have accomplished so much. Like how many teams are left on like that bucket list? You know what I mean? They got to be like right there.
Yeah, I mean, I keep a list on my phone of like wrestling accomplishments, wrestling goals, and who I want to wrestle, who we want to wrestle as a tag team. And they're right up there. And they have been for a very, very long time since we realized they were taking independent bookings. There are a couple of companies that it was supposed to happen. And I won't say who they are just because it didn't happen there. So I don't want to like put them on blast about that. But yeah, it was supposed to happen to actually two different companies, but it just never worked out with their schedule. And like, I don't know because when we did extra work in Nashville the last time they were there, we actually talked to both of them, and they were like, yes, like we want this to happen. We're actually going to go speak to Tony Khan right now about like taking more independent bookings. And that was like, I think that was right before like they started winning like every single like title, the AAA, the ROH, New Japan, like they started just winning everything. So it was like obviously hard for them to take a random independent date with a tag team that Tony Khan knows nothing about, right?
Let's not act like Tony Khan knows nothing about Violence is Forever.
He's very aware.
I assume nothing.
Yeah.
Listen, I assume nothing. So like, I know. Like, I'm friends with people that he's known with and tape traded with, back in the day, and like, I'm sure that he watches a lot of wrestling, but I don't know how much he knows of us as actual wrestlers. Like, I'm sure he's heard of us, but I don't know how much he actually knows of us, right? Because I fully believe if he knew who we actually were, we would be there right now. And like that's not like me trying to blow smoke in my own ass. I'm very confident that we are two of the best tag team wrestlers or wrestlers period in the world right now. Like look at our last year and a half, 2 years. Like you can't touch that with anything. Like we've been everywhere, we've done everything, and we haven't stopped. Like we never have an off day. None of our matches are off days. We always go as hard and as good as we can. Doesn't matter if there's 5 fans, doesn't matter if there's 6,000 fans. We will do everything we can.
Yeah, well, and I mean, if anyone would ever have any doubt for any reason about VIF, like just look at all the companies that have put the faith in you guys to carry their titles to main event shows. I mean, to like really carry these brands when you're there. And I mean, and not just as tag team wrestlers. I mean, you being a former Action Wrestling champion, Dom being a former Bone Storm champion. I mean, you guys are individual. I mean, it's similar to like the Motor City Machine Guns, like Shelly and Sabin. Like you can put them in any situation. For singles match, mid-card title, main event, it doesn't matter. Just anything, just get them involved. And that's how I feel about you guys. And I've been saying that for a long time. I think VIF, singles and tag team, you guys are an asset anywhere.
Man, that's a super cool thing you said, because Motor City Machine Guns are like probably my favorite tag team like ever. And I've been able to be on a lot of shows with Alex Shelley, but I've never wrestled him, either tag or singles. Dom's wrestled him once or twice, I think, but it's never happened. So like we both, like, all four of us want it. Like, he's talked to us before, like, I want this to happen somewhere. We just have to figure out where. Because at first, Saban wasn't taking independent bookings, which I understand because he has had double knee surgery and stuff like that. But like now he's taking more and more independent dates. I'm like, okay, this is like, I think that might be tops of FTR just because of like how much we love Ring of Honor and TNA. Like that's a big dream match for sure.
Were you living in Nashville when TNA was in the asylum?
I was, like, I lived there twice, 2 different times. So I lived there like 2009 through 2011. So I think that they were still there, or they were starting to switch over to the Impact Zone in Florida. But yeah, I never got to see any there. Like I got to wrestle at the original Fairgrounds once, but I never got to see any TNA tapings there, unfortunately.
Was that for Freedom Pro?
Yeah.
Yeah, man. I went to those shows. It's funny because like when I started dipping my toes back into all this, and around the time that I interviewed you all those years ago, like I had only really that was like the only independent show I'd really like gone to was Freedom Pro locally, and then Sup was totally different, like the bar with like the bar vibe and everything. But Freedom Pro, those were fun shows. I mean, the Fairgrounds is cool. Historic, obviously.
Yeah, it was awesome. They sold out the Fairgrounds, so like that's super cool.
Yeah, for sure. And it was like I can't remember who. I remember they ran a few shows there. They had like a Kevin Nash show there. Rockstar Spud headlined a lot there when he was around. Eric Young would come around. So you got a really good mix of talent there. EC3 was there, I remember, stuff like that. But I wanted to ask you, just so I don't forget, like kind of all saw it happening like in real time. As a matter of fact, you'll appreciate this. Do you recognize this? It's kind of dark in here, but
that's awesome.
Yeah, I've got a I don't know how I messed up my screen there. Do you see the color of my screen? Wow, I've never done. I don't know how that happened.
There you go.
But it's life is so much pain, and I'm so sad that it turned my screen dark. But yeah, I remember. So for those of you who don't know, Sad Comp was the original name of Violence Is Forever. And I got this T-shirt back when you guys were doing the rebrand, and Dom had these at a sub show for like $5 a pop. And me and Mose looked at each other, we're like, yeah, we'll take some, absolutely. But what was the kind of decision process of like teaming with Dom? Because like you guys were singles wrestlers, before and everything, and then it all kind of came together. How did that all kind of happen?
I think that we really kind of like, we started to become closer and closer friends. And we really looked at the landscape of professional wrestling in general and how like little actual tag teams there are. Like there's people randomly thrown together and then they'll team every once in a while and stuff like that, but they'll still do their own singles thing. But me and Dom really wanted to just be like a true tag team where like everything was simpatico. Like we had matching gear, we had good tag moves, we traveled together, everything. Even though we still live 6-7 hours apart. I just live in Chicago now. He still lives in Canton, Ohio, but like Nashville, Canton's about 7 to 8. Chicago to Canton's about 7. So like I didn't really move that far. So we just wanted to like, we figured we would have more of a chance to get different eyes on us, as weird as it sounds, because like when you think about it, it's really hard to bring in 2 people from 2 different states, right? And so at the beginning of our career, or of our tag career, we took a lot of L's. Like we traveled in cars for like 12, 14 hours one way just for an opportunity for like a 8-minute tag match to like maybe get something cool. And honestly, the Sad Comp thing started off as a joke and it just kind of like ran from there, oddly enough. Like Drew Cordero from Beyond said he loved the name, so we just like kind of kept it for a little while. And then when we wrestled Aussie Open after the Mania in New Jersey, they were like, "You guys got to change that name," like because they're good friends with like with Walter Gunther now, and like
Ring Call.
They had just seen him at WXW and like how do we pitch you guys to be serious wrestlers when you guys are serious wrestlers as a joke name? Like, and I was like, yes, this makes a lot of sense. It was literally a placeholder, and like we are changing it. I was just like, it just ran away from me.
Oh, that's too funny. Well, I got the merch while it was available, so.
Yes, exactly. And it won't be ever made again. So
Yes, I love it.
Talk to us about Deadlock Pro Wrestling, because you guys are the tag team champions there. I believe you got a promo on one of the recent shows, how you guys bleed orange and black. I talked to John Blood, and he put you guys over big time of like they love it here. Like they're really like they're ride or die for DPW. And one, can you confirm that story? Because Johnny, no liar. And two, just talk to me about just DPW in general.
no lies from John right there. We absolutely love DPW. I've been pretty much a day one person there because I was on their first show. And like, I think that they appreciated that I didn't treat them like a bunch of weirdos when they reached out to me completely cold about this random show in North Carolina that was like not in any large city. And like, we've just kind of grown to love their style because like we talked to them a lot, especially while we were over in Japan, how like their presentation, their style is very much Ring of Honor in the golden era, of our opinion. And like, that's how they want their wrestlers presented. And I think that we just fit in so well. And like, man, their fans are crazy. Like, they're not traditional wrestling fans. They're podcast fans that come to the show and now they've become wrestling fans, right? So it's like they're just appreciative of what's going on in the ring. They're not jaded by anything. They don't care about what's going on at another company or whatever. They just love Deadlock and DPW. Like, and that's so cool to me. Like that's so rare. That doesn't happen anymore, where it's like you build a fan base from something else and then bring it into wrestling and then it grows from there. And like, it's crazy because they've only been around for a little over a year and they've already done a tour of Japan. Like, who can really say that? Right. So it's just like, and they're all super cool. Like John, Tony, James, they're all so cool to work with. Like, they're just so open to any ideas that me and Dom have. And they're like, they're so cool about everything. Like the cage match that we had Workhorse, and we were like, we want to bleed. We want to make this really special. Like, we want this to be like as violent as we can in these parameters. And they're like, please do whatever you need to do. And like any like pre-tapes or promos we have to do with them, like they give us a couple bullet points, but they don't like direct us anywhere. Right. And that's another thing they do really cool. Like they think about presentation with like video packages, and like they pay for really good lighting. Like all their production's really nice. So it's just like, it's probably my favorite place to be on the indies right now.
Yeah. Speaking of like just the brutal violence and everything, and like just you reminded me of something. I've brought this match up before on the show. We talked about it with Mose before here on the show, and I wanted to get your thoughts on this because I've been to quite a few like death matches and stuff at this point. You know, I go to a lot of GCW events when I can and that kind of stuff. You were actually a part of the most brutal match I've ever seen live in my life in the Basement East one time. It was you and Dom versus Marco Stunt and Cabana Man Dan. It was VIF versus They Might Be Giants. You just reminded me about that, talking about your war with the Workhorsemen recently. Can you speak to that? Because like that was, and I'll tell you a story as well from some fan reaction stuff as it was happening. But can you, because that was something where like y'all hadn't done anything like that in that company before. I did not see that coming. And by the time it was over, I had like little Marco Stunt's blood all over my sandals and stuff. And I was like, this is the most crazy thing I've ever seen in my life. So you can kind of speak to that match. It was if you haven't seen it, go check it out if you're a fan of deathmatch wrestling.
Mm-hmm. I mean, me and Dom did it a good bit during the pandemic. He doesn't do it anymore, but like when we have the opportunity to do something like that, we go all out for it. We're not gonna go half speed for that, like in our regular matches. And we also want there to be like a reason behind it, right? We want the fans to actually care like why this feud is happening and culminating in something like this. So that was actually the first time I've ever bled in a match. And it's really funny. So like as we're putting the match together and stuff, like Cabana Man Dan was actually about to go to Universal Studios with his family, so it was like, I don't think I'm going to bleed or anything. I was like, totally cool. I'm not going to push you on that. And then like he he comes back a little bit later and we're main event and he's like, screw it, I'm bleeding. And like, I was like, okay, here you go. So I was like, well, there goes my plan for bleeding. So I was like, Marco, you're just gonna have to stick with skewers in my head, bud. And I'll tell you what, that was like, that was the first time I've ever been skewered. And that guy stuck skewers so hard in my brain that like, they were like probably like that far into my head. He just like kept going. I was like, please stop this. Please stop. You got it. You got it, bud.
I was like 4 feet from your face, dude. Like I was standing right below you watching this happen, just shocked of what I was seeing.
It was well crazy. And like I think I'll put credit on all of us that like we were inventive with what type of weapons and things we did in that match. Like Cabana Dance thing's a flip-flop thing, so we put thumbtacks on flip-flops, and then we used the ring. Like I think we just used our environment a lot better than just using like doors or like barbed wire or glass or anything. I think that we really took our time and thought about it. And like that's not putting anyone else down. That's how I feel about something like that, and I want there to be a reason behind it. Same reason why the Workhorseman match was in a steel cage and why it was like that, because there was a storyline behind it.
Sure. One, and it was a big deal to be the main event of that sub show, because if I remember correctly, before the intermission was Alley Cat and Brett for the Bone Storm title, which is like a huge match for that company, like the heart and soul of sub versus the long time, the gatekeeper of the whole company was the champion at the time, and Brett Eisen. And I remember I was talking to Mose on the balcony there at the Basement East, like during intermission. And I was like, man, I wonder why they did the title match before the intermission. That's kind of strange. And then by the time the main event happened, I was like, oh, now I see why this was the main event. This is crazy. As a matter of fact, y'all did the Dom took the tacks to his bare feet in that match. And then I saw Janela do it like later on AEW. And I was like, I wonder if he saw that on the sub show, because obviously Janela, loved to hunt, loved to fish. I remember all that. He obviously is aware of sub rap. So
yeah, I don't know. I think Joey's done it on a show before too, but obviously Dom wrestled barefoot at that time, so he had done it before that as well. So I don't know if like it was just a conscious thing between the two where they're like, okay, this is some weird shit that the freaks would love. And they obviously did because
I'm not saying, by the way, like Joey stole it. I'm just saying I saw it like not that long after. I just saw Dom do that.
It's really funny. Yeah. I was like laying there watching this, like, man, this is a bad idea that you're doing this.
Did y'all get heat from the venue? Because I was told that y'all were told like not to do much of that stuff, but was that not true?
They didn't explicitly tell us not to. We just kind of asked for forgiveness rather than permission. So like we try to keep it as clean as possible, which like I think we did an okay job of. Like we didn't like really every time there was a pre-show, my big theme was don't mess with the venue because it's really nice and we like being here. So I think everyone took that to heart, and I avoid at all cost if I can be main event, because I am running like the back of everything, like making sure like wrestlers are okay with their match and stuff like that. And then Dom's running times and Dylan's obviously doing commentary. So it's like there's a big crew behind it, but it's like it's hard for me to think about a match the entire time and run the back. So that the couple of times that I've had to main event, I'm like, ugh, this sucks.
Well, I know in that venue too, like they might be running a concert like a few hours later too. So it's like crazy to get in and out of there so quickly. And there was one more thing I was going to bring up about that tag team match, and it's just slipping my mind. I'll probably think of it here in a second. Jeremy, you have any other questions?
You talking?
Oh, sorry, what was that?
I was gonna say, were you gonna say the bell shot that Dom gave to
so two things there. So that please hold that thought, because that was the most iconic thing. I actually didn't know if you wanted to talk about that, because I didn't know if there was real heat about that. And then what I was gonna tell you about, like, so just really quickly, while I was there, I noticed some just tourists come into the Basement East during y'all's match. And I went outside to get some air because I was freaking out a little bit. I couldn't believe what I was seeing. So I get outside to get some air, and there's this family like yelling at someone who works at the venue. What the fuck is going on in this place? We were told this was like a music venue. Like, we're from out of town. We just heard the bass. This was a nice place to see. And they come in and they see Marco Stunt, Cabana Man, Dan walking around, the blood all over themselves, and you got skewers in your head. Awesome. Dom's got tacks in his feet. Our crazy fans are chanting like, "You sick fucks, you sick," like it's a badge of honor. You know what I mean? And these people were so confused as to what they were seeing. So
I love that.
That's
awesome.
Yeah. and also, yes, please speak to the bell shot because I know exactly what you're talking about.
It was like I don't know where Dom's head was at. He was just like, he looked at it, hit, and I think it was like kind of a receipt thing, if I remember correctly, because like Cabana Man Dan did something, so Dom just grabbed the bell and hit him with it, and like I saw the footage. I was like, "What the hell was that, Dom?" And like Cabana Man Dan was completely fine. Obviously, like he said he didn't really feel anything, but it was like the thud of it. I was like, Jesus Christ! Like you really went for it, eh? And then he did the like, "Why am I so violent?" thing, looking at it like, "Oh shit, what did I just do?" And it's a funny joke between all of us now. You know, I'm sure at the time he was like, "Damn, I really wailed him with that. I probably shouldn't have done that." But you know, it's the heat of the moment. A lot of stuff.
Yeah, that for those of you who haven't seen this, go check it out. It is a bell shot from Dominic Guarini to the head of Cabana Man Dan, and as Q said, it's just just an uncomfortable thud. It's just like a vibe throughout the building. It's like, oh. Yeah.
I don't know how like he was like awake after that, because I was just like, God damn, that was loud. Like what just happened over there? And like looking back, I was like, nice. So it's like, yeah, I mean, he's got a really hard head, so it's like good on him.
I know we gotta let you go here soon, so I want to make sure we ask this. Everybody.
Yeah.
Oh, okay. I mean, if we had a little bit more time, then I want to ask about
we got more time.
Okay, then I want to ask about your trip to Japan, because I believe it was the first time you went over there to wrestle. So what was that experience like over there?
Man, it was my first time wrestling, and just being there in general. It was legitimately the coolest place I've ever been to. And like, I've been to almost every state in the US. I've been to Germany. I've been to the UK. I've been to France. It is legitimately the nicest, cleanest, coolest place I've been in my life. Like, just wrestling wise, like every venue is clean. Like the rings are already there. All the rings are nice. Every bathroom in the venue has a bidet. Like the fans are so respectable and nice. Like I've just never experienced something quite that efficient in my life, like anything at all. It was mind-boggling. It was just like, man, how am I going to go back to the American Indies after experiencing this? And I'm sure a lot of Americans that go over there are like that too, right? Especially the ones that do like big tours with like New Japan or Noah or something like that. They're like, and then they come to like, I don't know, like Mississippi or something, like, man, what is going on here? So it's just like, I'm so appreciative of Deadlock to give us that opportunity and experience. And like that was just truly a dream come true for me and Dom, because like that was a big bucket list thing for us to do. It's just like, didn't matter how it happened, we wanted to wrestle in Japan. And just the fact that it was for DPW was just like the icing on the cake, right? Just because we've put so much into that company, and they've given us a lot of trust. So I'm glad that they trusted us enough to represent them overseas. It's like we were the only people that were from the like American Deadlock crew that came over there. So it was really cool. And like just and then I spent like another week on vacation there. So it was just like I got to go to a DDT show. I got to look at temples. I got to go to Disney. It was just like so cool, man. I truly cannot wait to go back.
That how long is the plane ride?
There it was like 13 and a half. Coming home it was like 12. So it was a bit rough, just because I have a bad back. So like sitting in those seats, like they're a bit bigger, but it's still like you get stir crazy. And I made the mistake of not sleeping there or coming back, just because I was like, my internal clock would be good if I don't sleep. stupid of me. I was just destroyed. Like when we got there, we landed at like 3 p.m. their time, and I left Chicago noon my time. So it was like a complete mind fuck. I was like, what the fuck is going on? And then we had to like walk to find our hotel, and like luckily a lot of the like all the transit is in English, so like it's rather easy to find. But then finding the actual place where we're staying was quite hard, so we had to like call people to figure it out. But it was just like I was like, okay, I have food in me. I went to 7-Eleven, I got some food, I was good to go, and then I just crashed until like I woke up at like 5 a.m. Japan time, and I was like, well, I'm awake now. I have to wrestle today. I guess I'm going to go to McDonald's. And like Japanese McDonald's is sick, man. Like, you know, you go to McDonald's here and the workers are kind of begrudging because everyone treats them like shit there. But like, man, they were so nice and respectable and clean at that McDonald's, and like, oh, it just hit so hard. And then coming back home, I didn't sleep at all either. So I'm just now okay. And I've been back for like 2 weeks or something like that. And like for like 4 days after I got home, I just slept on my couch like for like 12 hours at a time, because I just like couldn't get myself together. And then I had to wrestle like a week after that, and I was just like, okay, let's go. So I don't know how people like. I don't know how people just go from Japan to America, wrestle the day, and then go back. That's just insane to me. Like, what is that?
No, not for me at all. No, I don't know how to wrestle, obviously, but just the travel. Like, no.
Jensen, you can't get on a flight at all.
I can't fly, period. I mean, I can, but I get sick. It's terrible. Q, just really quickly, just reminded me, is your bad back at all because of the broken neck from before? Does that have anything to do with that, or is that all like, totally?
More than likely, like I just have a bad back from like poor posture and like playing in bands and skating all my life. So it's like the neck definitely is a contributing factor to it, probably, but it's compounding with like bumping in a wrestling ring for the past 8-9 years of my life. So it's just like I think every wrestler inherently has a bad back. We just kind of deal with it in different ways.
Well, for those who might not know this, and this had to have been already, I don't know, maybe 5 or so years ago when you had that match with Angelus Lane, that is, and you legitimately suffered a broken neck, and you were wrestling like just like a couple months later. It felt like you took like no time off.
Yeah, so I fractured 2 vertebrae, and when I went to the doctor, they told me that I could have surgery, but I could also just do heavy physical therapy, and I would probably be fine. So I was like, okay, I don't feel like doing surgery. So I just did 3 times a week of physical therapy for 5 months straight. And then I wrestled at BOP. That was my first show back. And luckily it was like in a 4-way. So I had some time to like acclimate myself back in, but I would say it took me a good like 3 months after starting to wrestle again to really like get back in the swing of things.
Gotcha. I know. Sorry. Go ahead, Jeremy.
Oh, go ahead. Go ahead, Jensen.
Oh, I was just gonna say, I know. Around that time, a guy, and I just wanted to get some thoughts on Dylan Hales real quick, because I know that he's a guy who has always been like a kevxku guy. Like before anyone else, I felt like I was always seeing Dylan Hales talking about you, and I know you guys work together, you know, running SUP and everything. And he does so much for the Southeast scene, really the independent wrestling scene in general. But you know, I get to see him in the Southeast, of course. Can you kind of speak a bit toward about Dylan Hales, because people might know him as like a commentator for various shows, but they may not understand like how important he is behind the scenes for all this stuff.
Yeah, man. Like we used to ride together I picked him up in Chattanooga to ride to Action all the time. And we would just talk about like life, music and stuff like that. And like the amount of stuff that guy does for IWTV and wrestling in general is crazy. Like people wouldn't be able to do it. Like he just does so much stuff, and he never sleeps either. I mean, that's his insomnia, but also he just never sleeps because he's working all the time. He is legitimately like the biggest workhorse in independent wrestling right now. Like I don't think that IWTV would be running if it wasn't for him, honestly. And like it's good also that he's just a good person, right? Like I would come to him with my life problems, like, and he would have a lot of really good insight because he's been around and we've kind of walked the same path in a lot of senses. So I go to him for a lot of stuff, and like since I moved to Chicago, we haven't like really kept up as much, and I kind of hate that. So I need to text him after this. But yeah, he's legitimately like one of the hardest workers in wrestling. Like if you like all the problems that people will say with IWTV, like their account isn't working or something like that, usually goes to him. Like he's always troubleshooting something or another. And he used to be, I don't know if he still does it, but he was the one that would like launch the streams while he was like calling a show for Action or TWE or SUP or something like that. Like he would be doing everything. So like I truly just don't know how he has the bandwidth for that stuff.
I was going to ask you about who has hit you the hardest, because you've been in the ring with a lot of guys who hit very hard, including your own tag team partner. And I feel like sometimes the tag team partner might hit you a little bit harder because they know it's okay. We've also been in there with guys like Tom Lawler who hits hard, and Josh Bishop who hits hard. Like who has hit you the hardest?
I'll go by the hardest choppers. I'll say this first.
Okay.
One of our first singles matches me and Dom ever had, he chipped my tooth. So he hits quite hard. But the top hardest choppers were Hot Sauce Tracy Williams, Jonathan Gresham, Eddie Edwards, Tom Lawler for sure, and Gary J. I think that those are my top five that I've been in the ring with personally. I think people will say, "Oh, these person chops hard," but I've been in the ring with them, so you know that's me. Eddie Edwards chopped me like 3 times, I think, and it's legitimately felt like I was in just like a chop battle with someone. Like I chopped like 50 times. Like what the hell's going on? And then Tom just has like massive, like legit frying pan hands. Like it's crazy. Like, and he just like, I mean, he's a legitimate combat athlete, so like he knows how to throw hands, right? Gary is just really bony and has big hands. Gresham is like, this was before current Gresham when he was like quite small or like smaller in frame, and like he just like chops you in the collarbone because he has to like kind of come up at you. I'm like, God damn, this sucks. And Tracy Williams is like, he's also another bony person, but he's just like has a lot of power behind him. So like, yeah, those are probably the people, and he forearms really hard too. So those are probably the people that have hit me the hardest in wrestling.
With you and Hot Sauce, that was at SUP, right?
Yes, we've had 2 tag matches and a singles match.
Gotcha. Because that singles match was at SUP. Because that was a great match. I remember that one. That was really good. That might have been the night that Marco beat Dom for the title. Maybe it might have happened that night. Yeah,
that is.
Yeah, I got a pretty good memory for SUP. I love those shows, man. Like that was my jam. Jeremy, you got more questions? We have one question we ask everybody, but it's kind of one of our kind of wrap up questions.
I was going to ask, we've talked a little bit about like different goals, different matches that you would like, but what to you is your goal in wrestling moving forward, short term and long term?
Short term is growing the independent scene and making it viable for people to make a living here, right? It is viable, right? But I don't think everyone knows how to do it. Like Effie's really, 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 really good at it. Like he makes a living off of independent wrestling himself because he markets himself and he works his ass off on it. But I want independent wrestling to be seen in the same light that I saw it when I first started watching it. And I feel like it's kind of like taken a dip recently. I don't know if it's due to like everyone being signed or like thinking that they're signed because they worked dark one time or some shit. But I just want it to be like back to where everyone was hyped about an indie show going on. And every indie show, it doesn't have to be just one promotion, right? Long term, I would love for this to like be a super viable job, like where I make a very comfortable living off of, like be it in a like actually wrestling in a ring, backstage roles, refereeing, whatever. Like I just want to be involved in wrestling to where I can give back. And it doesn't have to be like It doesn't have to be WWE or AEW. Maybe that's not my path. Maybe I go to Japan and that's my path there. Who knows? I have the goals written down on my phone, but I also try not to think too hard on it because then I stress myself out. Like, why isn't this happening now? All my other peers are at this level. Why am I not at this level? So it's like, it's really hard for me to like really step back and appreciate things that I've done so far.
It is all about, just living in that moment. And I know a lot of people say that, and a lot of people say, well, it's very hard to do when you're in that moment, but then you look back and it's like, oh, okay, yeah, maybe I should have enjoyed that more. Speaking as a fan that does not have the photographic memory of SUP like Stephen Jensen does, I really love what you and Dominic have done. We've spotlighted you guys a bunch of times on our show. And again, I think for my money, you guys are the best independent wrestling tag team out there. And so I appreciate all the work that you've done. And look, I'm rooting for both of you guys, whatever that path, that journey is. I love that you love DPW. I joke about Johnny being a liar, but that's a company that I'm really rooting for as well because of how it started. I've got a very small friendship with Johnny, and so I'm rooting for his success as well. I love that you guys are so like just flag in the ground for that company because I hope the best for them and that everybody who works there.
Yep, us too. That's DPW is our home right now, so.
Last one. We ask everybody, coolest thing in your room.
I have multiple rooms. This is my office that my wife gave to me because she has her own office. And then let's see. Coolest thing in this room currently. Okay, I'm gonna seem like a real weirdo nerd about this, but hold on one second.
No, yes, please show us.
We've had a lot of random things that you would not suspect pop up during this segment.
Absolutely.
This is my gigantic Razor Crest, my Lego Razor Crest.
Oh, wow.
That I built when my wife went to Italy, and I got really sad and bored. So I bought that and built it.
Explain what the Razor Crest is to people who may not know.
It's from the Star Wars TV show Mandalorian. It's his ship that he had in the first 2 seasons. It's now blown up. Weird nerd shit. But it's like it's one of the bigger sets that Lego has ever introduced. Like I'm a big Lego guy because it helps me a lot with like stress and anxiety to just build stuff. So like this room is quite filled with different types of Lego stuff. But yeah, it's just like a cool space thing, and like I love Star Wars. Like that's like one of my earliest memories. Like as a young child / teenager with my mother, she took me to see the re-release of New Hope in theaters when they first re-released it. So like that's always a special thing between us. So like I'll always have a special place in my heart for Star Wars, and now it's really popping off. Like I'm so jealous of like all the cool stuff these kids get now. Like I go to Target and they have so much cool toys, and like, damn, I wish I had this when I was a kid.
Hey, Q, even better. We got them when we're 30, man.
Exactly. And I can pay for it myself. So
exactly. I mean, look behind me, dude. I'm out here collecting all the stuff I couldn't get when I was a kid. So I mean, I get it. Last question I got for you, Kevin, is we'll do a Dave Meltzer 5-star scale on this. What would you rate the new Zelda game?
Ooh, I'm currently playing it right now. So I literally just got to the part like where the actual missions, the main missions. So I'm saying 5-star right now, just because like I love Breath of the Wild when it first came out. Like I binged the hell out of that, and like I was so bummed because this game came out 6 days after I got back from Japan because my plan was to just play this on the flight, but I couldn't do it. So like it's so beautiful. Like the graphics on it are insane. The fact that they can put that in a handheld game like a Nintendo Switch is just crazy to me, coming from like, dating myself from like the original Game Boy and stuff like that. Like it's just mind blowing how good things have gotten now.
Yes, I haven't played yet, but I do have a Nintendo Switch. I do plan on playing it soon, but I've seen nothing but good stuff. And I was scrolling your Twitter earlier. I saw that you had gotten it, so I wanted a quick little review ski there. So I appreciate that. Yeah, that's everything I've got. Jeremy, you got anything left?
Oh no, I was gonna let Kevin, give him a chance to promote himself, let everybody know where they can find him at, any upcoming events, dates, anything you want to plug and promote.
I do have a DPW show on Saturday. We are facing MSP. They're a tag team that we've faced quite a bit now, and I think that this is like the best version of them. It's for our tag team titles, and if we win this, we will have set the record for most tag team defenses in DPW. So that's what we're gunning for. You can find me most anywhere. Like I said, we're not tied down anywhere, so we're at most independent promotions. I see that you have my little Twitter handle there. It's the same on Instagram. That I keep everything updated. You'll see pictures of my cat and my dog on there, if that's what you're into.
Thank you, man. We really appreciate it. Everyone go follow Kevin on Twitter. Show him some love. Show Violence is Forever some love. Show DPW some love. And yeah, man, we appreciate it. Thank you again for joining us. This is great. And guys, we'll be right back here on the spot. We are back. Big thanks to kevxku, very gracious with his time. Go check him out. Go support all of his work. You can follow him. The links are down below. If you are perhaps running a wrestling show and you'd like to book kevxku, the link is down below. And you can also donate to a charitable organization for Kevin as well, if you would like to do that. Again, big thanks to kevxku. Guys, thank you today for joining us here on the show. We'll be back next Thursday talking all the world in wrestling, talking all the news and highlights in the world of wrestling. Big thanks to Stephen Jensen. Everyone follow him on Twitter at FightTalk_. Head over to Fightful Overbooked. We've got new stuff going on every single day. Check out yesterday's episode of In the Weeds, where we were live as the Warner Brothers upfronts were taking place and the Collision announcement was made. We also had a fantastic interview with Spencer Love talking about Love Pro Wrestling, his company up in Canada. We have a new show tomorrow. We're going to have some guests for that. I'm sure we'll talk about some more CM Punk stuff tomorrow. So that should be very fun. Maybe we'll have some new stuff to talk about as CM Punk gets on Instagram stories today. We shall see. Happy birthday, SP3. Happy birthday, Denise Salcedo. Everyone go say happy birthday to Denise Salcedo. I'm out of here. Bye, everybody. Leave a thumbs up. Subscribe. Go to Fightful.com. Subscribe to this channel right here. Subscribe to Fightful Select. Subscribe to Fightful Overbooked. Leave us a good review on podcast and all those platforms and all that fun stuff. We'll be back next week. Take care, everyone.